Stugotz and Billy are working hard. They are crawling all over football. They are looking in all the crevices. When Monday morning arrives and you want your NFL coverage, God Bless Football has you covered. And also, God Bless Football is going to end up very soon flying to Arizona, landing in Arizona, sponsored by Smirnoff, and they're going to do, during a football Sunday, they're going to do an Arizona watch party. Before we get to telling people what is on God Bless Football, though, Stugotz, which you've already done, how excited are you to do in Arizona what you just did in Chicago?
I'm very excited because this game has actually turned into a big game. It is Jets. It is Cardinals. The Cardinals are good, and the Jets are right back in the playoff hunt. I mean,
Kyler Murray is fun to watch and says he's most comfortable at the quarterback position, that he's never been this comfortable. And it's just so fun to watch when those guys are comfortable back there.
You mentioned Arizona, Dan. You could join us from the DraftKings Sportsbook at TPC Scottsdale. Jets Cardinals kickoff 2:25 local time, and we're also going to be on YouTube if you're wondering, 21 and older because it's a sportsbook. Some people are saying, hey, what should we expect when we're out there? Should I go? Is it worth the drive? Here's what you should expect. If you're not from there and you want to watch on YouTube, you don't want to fly for 5 hours or whatever, we're going to be on YouTube. You can enjoy the show there. If you're there in person, we're going to be doing the show, to my understanding, but primarily for YouTube, but we're going to have breaks. We're going to be talking. We're going to be interacting with the fans, shaking some hands, kissing some babies. Just hang out with us. You know what I mean? A good time will be had by all. And I'll tell you this. Stugotz is saying that he's excited about it. And you ask, is this going to be similar to the situation in Chicago? This is all presented by Smirnoff, by the way, the world's number one vodka.
I mentioned that already.
Yeah. So you were asking, is this going to be similar to Chicago? I will say it is not in this sense. The Jets will be playing, and Stugotz is going to be on edge most of the time. Mike Ye will be there as well, on edge. And if the Jets lose, I imagine they're going to be in Jets garb, I would think, right? So I said, you know what? We need to make an executive decision. We're not going to be flying to Scottsdale, Arizona, just to be having a Jets watch party. So I went on and I bought myself some Cardinals gear, and it's supposed to be arriving tonight by 7 p.m., and I will be there. Bear down, Billy. Maybe no more because the Bears kind of suck right now. And I may be flying high with the Cardinals come Sunday. So you can come join us and root on the Cards or root on the Jets or root against Stugotz or whatever you want to do.
I want to talk some NFL with you guys and something that I've not seen in football, which I saw during the Bills-Dolphins game. And I think we can declare that a hammer and a nail do not have a rivalry. Every time Buffalo and the Dolphins play in Buffalo, Miami loses. It doesn't matter who their players are. If Josh Allen and McDermott are the coach, they go to Buffalo and they lose a variety of different ridiculous ways. This time with a 61-yard field goal. This time with just an absurd play that basically Josh Allen is the only guy in the league allowed to make, which is just dumb running around in the backfield and then flipping it to a guy totally recklessly in the end zone and it being a touchdown.
Josh Allen is 13-2 career versus the Dolphins.
And I can't remember the two losses. And
the heat stroke game.
And that one where he threw out his arm because they were playing in the hottest game ever played in Miami.
They ran out of time. Ken Dorsey threw the thing at the camera. It's a fun game. But they were about to win that game, too.
The thing that I have not seen, though, and I couldn't believe yesterday, and it's just so telling with where we are, as the Dolphins fall, Stugotz, what are they now? 3.5 games, 4.5 games, halfway through the season. The Bills are going to clinch the division by Thanksgiving. They're going to clinch the division. But in the middle of 4th and 4, desperate moment, Tua's running toward the goal line. He takes off through the middle of the field, and I think it was Kevin Harlan, shouts, uh-oh.
Yeah, yep. I told Billy during God Bless Football, it's the greatest. It really is. It's one of the greatest calls in broadcasting history because he captured what we were all thinking at home. I mean, he did.
I just can't believe we're watching football that way. Do you realize what a startling difference that is between now and 10 years ago when we were denying that concussions were that bad? We're all watching someone, and it's like someone's rolling an egg on the field. And it's like, be careful. We don't know what's going to break here. Like, we're trying to hide. And he was great yesterday.
He was great, yes.
The Dolphins can't play a lot better than that, and they still lose on a 61-yard field goal. 25 of 28, where they're going down, and every time they have the ball, except 2, they're scoring. Like, I don't know what more you would want from them. And then
play defense. Jeez
okay,
Louise.
Go for
Back-to-back
2.
weeks,
I mean, how
not
about
for
that?
8.
Yeah.
Do I miss Fangio? Maybe.
Also, crushing turnovers the last few weeks. Mostert with a bad fumble.
Yeah, very bad. And they were driving there. That was at the beginning of the second half. I do wonder, Dan, what do you think of McDaniel's decision to not go for 2 on the road in that spot, knowing your record against the Bills? Like, for me, if you're going to be the coach who's, aggressive, who's going to go for it, you have to go for 2 in that spot.
I would have, and I think he might have at other points during his career, but these are some of the things that happen when the pressure gets ratcheted up to this place where you've got Rex Ryan on television, Stugotz, doing this to Mike McDaniel, because it will make you coach a little less confidently when all of a sudden you're walking around on eggshells and your team is falling further and further back in the division, and all of a sudden you start playing safe.
With their coach, Mike McDaniel, who I know you have developed your new name for.
Oh, Mike McGenius.
Yes.
Yes, not so much. I mean, he's 1-8 against winning teams over the last 2 years. And, so if you're going to beat Buffalo, look, their Achilles heel is teams that can run the ball. All right, you want to keep that offense on the sideline, run the football. But that's okay because McGenius is a run game guru, right?
Right.
Except when you watch the tape, I'm like, you're doing zip. Like, what the hell are you doing? Here's our McGenius play. Let's just pitch it to the back and let him see if he can outrun guys. No blocking issues and all that stuff. I just think it's ridiculous. And this team right here, that's why they're desperate. Who cares? You think Buffalo cares? Buffalo's watching the tape going, you guys do nothing.
They don't care.
You guys do nothing.
Unusual for a former coach to give a current coach a nickname. I will say, in whatever defense it is you think this is of McDaniel, that's as well as the Dolphins can play, and I don't know what you want him to do about 7 fumbles in 10 quarters. Like, Mostert is running the ball. They're running the ball successfully, and he gets it punched out by somebody because all over UM and the NFL, guys are just running around throwing haymakers that start on the sideline, just punching the football as hard as they can.
That's odd criticism from Rex Ryan, because if the Dolphins have done anything good the last month, it's run the football. They've run for almost 200 yards in like 4 straight games.
They ran it well yesterday, 31 carries for 149 yards.
It's all they can do right now.
Right.
Chris, you're a fan. Do you sell? Do you sell at this deadline? I mean, Jalen Waddle did have that nice little bounce back game that resulted in -4 yards.
What happened with that prop bet at the end of that game where Tua had
Tua's
a passing yard
It's
over?
a bad beat. Yeah.
And, did you guys see what happened with this? Again, I want to go back. Do you realize how absurd it is for an announcer to yell in the middle of an NFL Sunday as if there's a baby carriage on the field with an infant in it? Uh-oh. Because we're all sitting around worried. Don't hit him in the brain. Don't hurt his brain. Do you know how crazy it is to watch football that way?
I feel like if there was a baby in a carriage it would have gotten even bigger than that. Like, hey, there's a baby on the field.
Right.
He probably wouldn't have gone with, uh-oh.
He's at the 25.
I get your point. But it would have been like, someone get that baby off the field.
Would you agree with me that you haven't seen that before during an NFL game?
Well, last week we heard the crowd gasp, but this was the first time the announcer did it.
In that game, Poyer had a hit late in that game that brought penalty flags. Guys, this was something very frustrating to me in general about yesterday, even though I'm the person out here always caring about everyone's safety. The Rams and Seahawks have played that game for 12 years. 12 straight years they've been playing that game.
Yeah.
And in that game, you had a call on Stafford that I'm like, how was that a penalty? That is so punitive to go from what would have been 4th down and they're kicking field goals to automatic 1st down and 15 yards on a penalty that's just asinine. It's an asinine penalty. You can't do that. And so I know this happens every weekend all over the league, but there are these giant penalties for things that are just football. And this is not what happened with Poyer. That was absolutely illegal. And I think one of the announcers just shouted, "Calamity!" Just calamity.
All in.
That Dolphin game, Billy, how mad are you at the Dolphins? Because we keep saying every week that their season is over and we're putting more and more nails in this coffin, because that gives you reason to hope the way that they play in that game because they can play with that team, and then you lose on a 61-yard field goal.
And you're 2-6. So I think Mike's question is a fair question if you're buying or selling, because I don't know what the Dolphins should do.
Did you go into that game thinking the Dolphins would win? Because I assumed that they were going to lose that game going into it. And even I didn't even have a problem with the McDaniel going for the extra point instead of the 2 at the end of the game, just because there was enough time left that Josh Allen had time. So if you miss the 2-point conversion, you've given up the game. You've lost the game, right? And they were going back and forth where I think that you trusted if you could stop them, you could take this to overtime. It took them a franchise record 61-yard field goal to win that game, and it took them a Poyer, penalty to even put them in field goal range. So, I wouldn't second guess the going for 2 situation there because they were going back and forth.
I just would have liked it because I thought that's what I was being sold when you told me I believe in my offense above all else. And if Tua's out there, we can run the ball and we're going to move up and down the field all game against Buffalo. One play for the lead. I would have liked to have watched that, but only because I want my coach to be maximum aggressive all the time. I understand why he would play a little more scared than he has been.
I want my coach to be Dan Campbell.
Guy's crazy.
I mean, yeah, but do you want your coach to be Nick Sirianni, who went for 2-3 times yesterday and missed twice, and then he decided, you know what, I'm going to not punt it, I'm going to kick a field goal. He almost cost them that game. I'm not going to push on 4th and inches. Nick Sirianni went stupid over aggressive and almost cost his team the game and seems to be trying to cost himself his job.
Stugotz, there were a number of football things that I wanted to talk about, but Jacksonville losing that game, just being maximum Jacksonville when we all knew there's no way Trevor Lawrence is going to pull this out. Sirianni is trying to gift wrap this for Jacksonville a number of different ways, and there's just no way that Trevor Lawrence isn't going to forever make that mistake at the end.
In that game, there were 3 plays of the year. Dotson's catch, Smith's catch,
yes,
and Saquon with the most ridiculous running back highlight you'll ever see in your life. There isn't a better highlight. He did something that you can't even do in video games. Video games haven't even thought to create a backwards hurdle. It's the single greatest highlight a running back has ever made.
The athleticism involved in hurdling a tackler who's not that low to the ground by springing butt first,
amazing,
4 extra yards,
yep,
suggests a level of athleticism that's unusual. Guys, you'll grant me this? How many of these people can you say this about in that sport? Because they're making running backs disposable, and we can see, oh my God, Saquon, whatever it is that the Giants weren't there last year, wasn't his fault, and Saquon is one of the guys, and there are 3? Chubb doesn't even get to be one of them anymore. I think it's Derrick Henry and now this guy, which is your NFL football team, no matter how tough you think it is, in the 4th quarter behind Lane Johnson, they're going to wear you out. And Sirianni's going to try and screw it up, but they're going to run the football with a running back who's meant to batter you. And they said it of Chubb, and they say it still of Derrick Henry. Is there a 4th that you can, for all the running backs that you love in the league, are there any that you batter a team with at the end? Because that's what Philadelphia is counting on.
Josh Jacobs, James Conner. I mean, Conner's good.
There's a different tier.
Yeah, it's a different tier.
Stevenson, when he gets going, can kind of be that guy. Big guys with breakaway speed. But those 2 other guys, while they're incredibly fast, Chubb, maybe not so much anymore after the injury, but Derrick Henry, incredible breakaway speed, pull-away speed. You're not used to seeing that from guys that side. You're not used size. You're not used to seeing the agility from someone that is like Saquon Barkley, someone that, especially later in his career, has leaned into, I'm going to wear you down over the game. But if you can play that highlight one more time, look at the move that he makes before the move. The move that he makes going into that backward hurdle is also special. Would be a great highlight individually, but to have the presence of mind to even think to add a backwards hurdle to that incredible play. Unbelievable faith in your body, and a body that's been broken several times throughout his career. To still have the agility to do something no one's even conceived of before, including video game developers, that is as unreal a highlight as you'll ever see.
What gets undersold is how he gets so drilled after landing, too. It's just like every defender there just collapses on him at one time.
Let me ask you guys this, because I think we're watching something, and I've told you this before, how sometimes with aging athletes, Stugotz, if they're still wearing the same uniform and still occasionally able to do what they used to do, it's hard for the human eye as a customer who roots for them and hopes for them to see a precipitous decline as obvious as it is with Aaron Rodgers now. The athleticism in that sport, never mind Saquon Barkley, are you with me that there were half a dozen catches in the football games played over the weekend where you're like, that's some of the best athleticism I've seen from a wide receiver. One of them was a Duke player. One of the catches I saw this weekend was a wide receiver for Duke where I'm like, that's an asinine catch that dude just
Garrett
made.
Wilson on Thursday night made a play that had me thinking in my living room, is that the second greatest catch I've ever seen?
It might be the greatest catch you've ever seen.
It was being compared to Odell.
And that game felt like it was a month ago. But Dan is right. There are catches almost every single weekend where you're like, and I don't recall a time in NFL history where I could say this, but where you're debating whether or not, is that the greatest catch I've ever seen?
There were two unbelievable catches in that game. There was an Oregon game, the former Texas A&M Aggie, Evan Stewart, made an unbelievable catch that actually didn't end up counting. The game-winning catch for the LA Rams at Seattle, Demarcus Robinson, I believe, one-handed, contested, amazing throw from Matthew Stafford. I think this weekend in the NFL and in college really stuck out with the individual level of skill that we've seen in this sport. It's a beauty to watch.
And then the tight ends are mutants, so you're watching, and all of a sudden McBride's running in the secondary, or Gesicki's running around, and Joe Burrow's putting together a statistical game where you're like, oh, really, another 5-touchdown game, and that could have been a 6-touchdown game.
The greatest 4 and 5 team in NFL history, the Bengals. Huh?
Gesicki made a play. Gesicki made a couple plays in that game. He made an unreal catch where he landed out of bounds and it didn't count. But the skill from these bigger guys we're at an unprecedented point in human athlete evolution to see all these things. There was an era in which we talk about the Dotson catch from that game, that Philadelphia game, for several days on end, and now barely gets a mention in an incredible weekend.
In the Buffalo-Miami game, Billy, because I don't know what people are looking at from yesterday and saying that's the game of the day. I saw that the Detroit Lions are right now putting together a season of expectations that has no precedent in their history, where Mike Tannenbaum is making people furious at ESPN because he's suggesting, Stugotz, that the Lions trade for Myles Garrett, that they trade 3 number ones, a 2, and Gibbs for Myles Garrett. And I know that people are laughing Tannenbaum out of the building on that, and Lions fans are saying, why would we do that? We're perfectly set up in every way. I think Jared Goff, I think over the last 6 games, they have more touchdowns than incompletions because of how efficiently they're playing on offense.
And he's completing like 85% of his passes over the last 6 weeks, which is crazy. But the reason Tannenbaum is suggesting that is because Aiden Hutchinson is hurt. So that's the one spot where if you're going to improve your roster, that's where you would do it. I'm not certain you give up that much to get Hutchinson because they've been fine without him.
Right. But I would say to you just independent. I know everyone thinks that Tannenbaum's saying that's insane. What are you talking about? But if you're ever going to be all in on a season, the Detroit Lions ought to be all in on this season. And if you think you're a pass rusher making you 4 plays a game the way that Hutchinson would that wins a playoff game, like you give up a lot for that. Maybe not what he's saying, but it's an interesting conversation to me that we're having about the Lions because, yes, of course, I want a pass rusher in his prime who can take my defense to something. I know my offense is championship good, who can take my defense to a turnover level that very few guys in the league can actually execute.
But, Dan, in an NFC, I understand what you're saying, but in an NFC where the Niners aren't as good as we expected, where the Cardinals are in first place, where the Falcons are in first place, and no one knows if they're any good or not. You have the Commanders, an unexpected team, in first place. Do you need to trade that much to get that guy? That's the only.
I think everyone would laugh Tannenbaum out of the building for suggesting it. It's why it's a take that took off. I'm just saying this is the best Lions team any of us have ever seen.
Yes.
And so whatever you do to support championship there, that mortgages future, Like, I'm not going to laugh at you because you've never been in this position where I know you're good enough to go into Green Bay, and elements be damned, you're still not having any incompletions because you've got an offensive efficiency that's unusual, and your coach is saying, what? I can have 4 downs to get 10 yards with this offense? Okay, I'm going to do that as much as I can. And maybe I lose a game because they did last year, Stugotz, in the playoffs, but he ain't going to play scared.
No.
He's not going to – he won't shrivel up the way that he'll go for 2 with his offense and 3 yards to get because he trusts his offense.
You also probably won't have the same offensive coordinator next season. It was miraculous that he came back to Detroit, said he had unfinished business, but Ben Johnson, he was asking for king's ransoms out in the open market. But
he'll get it now.
There is no way he comes back to OC your team yet again next year. So I'm with Dan. You got to go for it, whatever. Cap be damned. Do whatever you can because this is a window that very few teams get.
Well, Dan Campbell last year also said after their loss, like, guys, we may not be back in this position ever again. We may have just blown it. So he seems like a guy that is willing to go for it when he has a chance because he told them after their loss, hey, we may never get this again.
Do you know how rare it is for me to envy a take? At this old dinosaur age where I don't care what anyone's take is on anything, and I'm like, Tannenbaum, you old fox. You threw some good chum in the water there.
He got disrespected, though. Like, the whole set acted like he said the most insane thing ever.
He doesn't care, though. It's chum in the water, as Dan pointed out. You just throw it out there, you walk away.
They overreacted. Like, it was not that crazy what he said.
No, I assure you.
Ryan Clark walked off set.
I assure you, Chris, that every show in America is laughing at Tannenbaum except us. I'm assuring you that is viewed as an asinine take. And what I'm saying is I looked at it and I'm like, salud, Tannenbaum. Well played. You realize what the stakes are on – man, your guys get hurt. I don't even believe that Detroit will remain healthy because why would I believe that anyone can stay healthy in that sport? But over half a season, there were expectations on what the Lions were this season, and they've exceeded them. That's never happened in my life. That's not a thing I've ever seen with Detroit Lions football, where it comes into a season with expectations and then exceeds them. My ass. That's been one of the worst franchises in the history of sports.
So you're saying yesterday Tannenbaum did his job. He earned his paycheck. And
it
I'm
wasn't
with
yesterday. I think it was Friday, but
whenever he said it was great.
Still close to my heart. Good job, Tannenbaum. You got into the take game. Look, you used to be a realtor down here. You robbed the Dolphins. You kept your career alive by just doing the snake oil dance of talking about football on television. And every once in a while you say a shocking thing. And every other time you draft Justin Herbert when the rest of us are looking somewhere else. Tannenbaum's good at that.
He is.
And the Detroit Lions, I think all of us would look at that football team and say, yes, that team could win the championship. And you can say it about you've already seen how Baltimore is going to lose in the playoffs. Like, that's how you expect them to lose. None of you are sitting here looking, even if you like Harbaugh, none of you are like, yeah, the Chargers defense allowing 12 points a game is what I'm going to believe in the playoffs. But all of you are looking at the Lions and saying, yep, I can see how that would beat everybody. That's what they did yesterday in Green Bay.
Yes.
Because Jordan Love got some of that Trevor Lawrence money. Whatever it is your $50 million quarterback is he as productive as Goff? Because that offense is humming in a way that feels a bit Kansas City-ish, Stugotz. Like, it feels like Kansas City used to have what the Detroit offense is now.
Are you saying something's off in Kansas City?
I'm saying something's on in Detroit.
That game seemed awful to play in yesterday, Packers-Lions. Just like cold rain the entire time. Just
not for
awful.
Dan Campbell.
Just awful.
He seemed to enjoy it.
He had a towel around his neck. It's like, hey,
care.
Dan, that towel's wet now.
He doesn't care, though.
If I had a time machine and I offered you a pass for whatever reason, and you'd never take it, Dan, because of where I'm sending you, but I offer you a pass to Super Bowl week, you think we're going to be preparing for a Lions Super Bowl?
I'm
I
rooting
don't think
for
we are.
it. I'm rooting for it. Why? You have them being upset by a Minnesota or San Francisco?
It just takes one game in the playoffs, and it feels like the Lions are a great team that are just something's going to happen there.
Well, then who do you trust?
Oh, I don't trust anyone.
Okay.
Just in general.
But then you can
life
do that.
principle.
Okay, but then you can do that to every single team because it's football. Because we're watching yesterday.
Trust the Chiefs.
Eh.
Stugotz minor penalty, 2 minutes for Chiefs talk.
Made a sound.
You did just make a
Chiefs, I
sound.
just-
That's not fair, man.
it-
Overly punitive. on
Life's
that.
not fair.
Oh, that's true.
I think Billy's got it exactly right, though. I think Billy's football analysis is better than everyone's on a Monday. You trust no one, except
None.
maybe the Chiefs.
Even them, I'm like, and my whole trust in the Chiefs is like, well, they've done it so far and they're not doing it well. So, like, when they start clicking on all cylinders, then, like, they're really going to take off. But, like, they haven't yet, and they still look okay.
Travis went to the Taylor Swift concert on Friday. That's a lot of traveling this weekend. I know they're playing Monday night, not a Sunday game, but just if they lose this game, I'm looking there.
I want to play for the people the video of Jason Kelce walking through a parking lot during tailgating and knocking the phone out of someone's hands because they have insulted Travis Kelce with a slur. What are you smirking about, Billy?
I'm not. I have a take that I feel like is dangerous territory that I'm not sure I want to go down because I don't know if there's any coming back from it once I do go down said path. And I just want to, I'm still mulling over. Do you think we should go down the path, Dan? Because, like, I know how this place works, and it's like, let's put out the clip, and let's get everybody mad at Billy, and let's have all the criticism, and let's have blah, blah, blah. And here's the thing. I love Taylor Swift, all right? I've been to Taylor Swift's show before it was in Vogue. I went to Taylor Swift in, like, 2018. Now, how many Taylor Swift concerts can you go to in a year? Like, in a calendar year? Like, it's a lot, right? Like, going to, like, every couple shows is a lot. And I understand the same argument can be made for Taylor. Like, how many football games are you going to go to? And that's a fair question, too. But, like, every week we're going to go to a Taylor Swift concert? It just seems like you get tired, like, traveling back and forth. And, like, I'm not someone that travels every week like Travis Kelce is used to. I'm not a jet setter. But I feel like it's a lot, right, to go to the same concert? Because, like, the concert, you basically, if you're a Swiftie, you know this. Like, you know the script. And then, like, the big reveal is like, oh, like she sung a song that wasn't in there. Or, oh, look, her outfit changed from, like, a red snake to a gold snake for this show. Like, the Swifties know. So, like, you go to it and you know you're going to have a good time. But, like, it's a lot of work.
In Travis's defense, I want to be fair here. I'm criticizing him for traveling a lot on a game week. He did leave during Karma, which is her last song. So he got out of there early, beat the traffic, didn't have to sit around. Not that I pictured Travis sitting in traffic for these events, but I just want to be fair to him here. He did leave early.
I don't think so.
I saw a video of him walking out during Karma.
Yeah, but he went to the backstage to, like, hang out with her. He didn't leave to beat traffic. Like, he was there with Tay-Tay the whole time, I'm assuming.
Okay.
You think he just went surprised? He didn't say hi to her, and then he left, and he didn't say goodbye?
I mean, I imagine he
he
saw her before and was like, I got to get out of here after. I got to get back. I got a game.
I saw a stat. I'm sorry that I cannot find right now who to credit it to, but that the Chiefs have won 2 Super Bowls since the last time that Daniel Jones had touchdown passes at home. He had this weekend the first time touchdown passes at home and scored touchdowns at home for the first time in 670 some odd days. And in that time, the Chiefs have won 2 Super Bowls somehow. The Commanders have their best team this century. This is the first time that they're 7-2. They quietly win a game against the Giants that we now expect them to win on the road.
Since 1996, first time they're 7-2.
I mean, 7-2 is exciting when you've got a quarterback that you can trust that way to somehow be magically poised when I don't expect young quarterbacks to look magically poised. That league, though, Stugotz, is so weirdly special because there is not a circumstance that you can divine in any time in history or in the playing of sport where I want to watch that Tennessee Patriots game. until you put Drake May back there running for 11 full seconds on 4th down and just farting the ball up in the air and touchdown Patriots to tie a game. That game shouldn't be on national television. That game shouldn't be televised at all. That game should not be watched by others. That game should be played somewhere in a field where people can't watch. Except for the last 12 seconds.
Oh, it was great.
Where Drake May runs around and avoids everybody for 12 full seconds.
That is a great loss for the Patriots, is it not? Because you found out something about your quarterback. He's good. I think Drake May has a chance to be good. But you circle that loss, Dan, come draft time, because it was a good loss from the standpoint of quarterback, pretty good. Gutsy team,
Adam Schefter.
And we lost to the Titans. And when we're selecting ahead of the Titans, you will circle that game and say one of the great losses in Patriot history.
I will not say that. Adam Schefter is reporting that players now want to be traded to the Commanders.
Oh, get out of here.
That's what Adam Schefter is reporting as news, that they want to go to Washington because they fixed their quarterback situation. Are we just going to bury ourselves in football for the next 36 hours to try and hide from what's happening in this country, where I saw a tweet the other day? It feels like America's just waiting around for a biopsy result, where all of us are just, and it's going to not come back tomorrow. It's not. I don't know whether to say here, Happy Election Day Eve, when it's not Eve. It's the day. You don't say anything is Eve if it's the day. I don't know if I want to say happy, and Election Day is not going to be Election Day, because there's no chance we know tomorrow all of a sudden, oh, America's fine, or I'm assuming all of us are at least a little bit afraid that there's going to be violence in pockets. So, trade deadline?
I'm afraid Vanderbilt won't be in the college football playoff. The committee reveals its rankings tomorrow night. That's very exciting.
We're back.
Yeah.
There's no way they're in the initial one.
Body of work. I mean,
Body of work. They're 24. Why do we do this with
He
the
does
SEC?
this with
They're
Alabama.
just all right.
No,
they beat Alabama. They beat Auburn on the road. They lost to Texas by a field goal at home. They're a good team.
We're in a dumb place with this conference. LSU is ranked presently above Texas A&M. They have one fewer win, and they lost to Texas A&M. That whole media covering that conference is so confused.
Yeah.
These teams are all right.
Stugotz wants anyone who beats Alabama to be granted immediate playoff access. The thing that none of you had, not even you, NIL expert, none of you were telling me Vanderbilt was going to be this year, where they can go on the road and beat Auburn, and they could play Texas close, and they could beat Alabama. None of you told me that Vanderbilt was going to be this.
Dan, if they just went on the road and beat Auburn, that would be a good year for Vanderbilt.
You know what would be weird is if we did a Vanderbilt season preview segment
I know,
on this
but
show. But I think the general spirit of Mr. NIL telling you that, yeah, there's going to be more parity. The talent is going to be more evenly distributed. And for the life of me, I cannot comprehend, as Nick Saban goes on the most popular studio show surrounding that sport and touts this huge lie that the NCAA is telling everybody by saying, if you give us safe harbor status, we will protect the sanctity of this sport and restore competitive balance. That is part of their argument, that they are going to restore competitive balance. Let's all take inventory of the last 25 years of college football and realize in individual eras, maybe 2 or 3 teams had an opportunity to win a championship.
How bothered are you getting by the fact that insurance salesman Nick Saban, lording over football still in voice and in lobbying, is still out here on television without anyone pushing back on him, just bold-faced lying through his teeth in protection of the system, a system that ran him out at the end, by the way, because he was like, enough of this. This is getting crazy for me. Too many people are being paid. I'm going to go over here and get paid. How bothered are you, Mike, that no one's calling him on this, that he just skips merrily through your every Saturday, and no one, not on that set, no one anywhere is saying he's just out here shilling for the status quo.
Equal time has been a talking point on media outlets over the weekend, and I would really love for someone to push back on Nick Saban and present another side to this, because on the most influential show covering that sport, you don't have a dissenting voice. This is a majority opinion that the NCAA should not have safe harbor status. And it is presented as this outlier thing that is bad for the sport. And it's a terrible, bad faith type of discussion that these studio shows are having. Also, I need clarity on whether or not Nick Saban is actually a paid lobbyist or not, because he's either getting paid to
smoke him out.
Somebody
smoke Saban out. Hey, Saban, are you a paid lobbyist?
I would ask the question, because he's either getting paid for these opinions or he's paying somebody back. I don't understand why we're not laying all the cards out on the table. And for one of the main core issues to be competitive balance, this is great. This is the most wide-open college football season in terms of who's going to win the national championship that we've had in quite some time. We've had championships in the NIL era that have featured Washington and TCU. Competitive balance is here.
Smoke him out.
You love to smoke people
smoke
out.
Smoke them out. I want that. This is when someone is barricaded in their home, right? You start throwing smoke bombs in.
So they come out.
So they come out coughing. Mike, I want you to smoke out Nick Saban. Make him walk off the game day set coughing because you're asking him shouted questions. Are you a paid lobbyist? I think I have it right when I say, even though it's been 44 years, that the greatest call, the most memorable broadcasting call in the history of sports in America, do you believe in miracles? Yes, when the United States beat the Russians.
Yeah.
I am willing today to replace that with uh-oh. Is anyone with me on this?
I am.
I'll go with it.
Yep.
Are we in agreement that Do You Believe in Miracles is the most famous sports broadcasting call of all time? Like, that's, if we were to get consensus on something subjective, I think most people can reasonably agree on that.
Yeah. That Giants win the pennant. But
Stugotz and Roy followed you there. I'm going to push back.
What?
I'm going to go with Do You Believe in Miracles over uh-oh.
And I'm going to go with a drive deep into left field by Castellanos. Folks, I'm not going to be sure if I'm ever do this again.
But here's what made it so great and why I'm with Dan. When the United States was winning that hockey game, I was not saying out loud or thinking to myself, do you believe in miracles? Yes. But when Tua took off, I was thinking, uh-oh. I was. He captured that.
Kevin Harlan spoke for a nation. Chris, can you just please play for me the single greatest apology and best comedic moment in the history of broadcasting?
Castellanos to lead things off. Jemele's going to be taking us the rest of the way through this game as Holland takes over on the mound. I made a comment earlier tonight that I guess went out over the air that I am deeply ashamed of. If I have hurt anyone out there, I can't tell you how much I say from the bottom of my heart. I'm so very, very sorry. I pride myself and think of myself as a man of faith. As there's a drive in a deep left field by Castellanos, it will be a home run. And so that'll make it a 4-0 ball game. I don't know if I'm going to be putting on this headset again. I don't know if it's going to be for the Reds. I don't know if it's going to be for my bosses at Fox. I'm going to apologize for the people who signed my paycheck.
It'll be for the CW.
For the Reds, for Fox Sports Ohio, for the people I work with, for anybody that I've offended here tonight. I can't begin to tell you how deeply sorry I am. That is not who I am and never has been. And I'd like to think maybe I could have some people that could back that up. I am very, very sorry, and I beg for your forgiveness. Jemele will take you the rest of the way home.
We have big breaking news.
We do.
Yes. Thom Brennaman is back doing his thing. He's on college football in the CW.
Oh.
And this week, he has a big game between Syracuse and Boston College, which means he will be calling a game quarterbacked by Thomas Castellanos.
Oh, wow.
We get to hear Brennaman say Castellanos over and over and over again.
Oh.
This was the day that we've been waiting for when it got announced that Brennaman was returning to sports, and he was calling ACC football on the CW. We all knew who was quarterbacking for BC. We were hoping it would work out this way, and it has. A momentous occasion, a game you're going to want to be at and have fancy new headphones like Dan has on his head to be able to hear the new feed featuring Thom Brennaman. And if you want to be in that building, let me tell you what. Go to one place and one place only. Game Time. Wow. That's right. Yes. Game Time, an incredible app. Do yourself a favor. Create an account and redeem the code DAN for $20 off your first purchase. We were talking about all of these great concert tickets. Secondary market, sometimes it can be a muddied field. So what I love so much about Game Time is that it makes it easy. You get comprehensive ticket coverage, the best customer service in the industry, panoramic seat views, and all-in pricing. You hit one button, and there are no surprises at checkout. Chris Cody, what time is it?
Time. I want to talk some college football because Penn State, good God, man. James Franklin, are you always that? Stugotz dared to believe in you this year, and you just do the most Penn State of Penn State thing.
Yeah, but here's the thing, and this is why I didn't like the 12-team playoff, although I have come around to it. James Franklin is going to be rewarded even while losing that game, because if you look at their schedule, they're not going to lose another game the rest of the year. And I'm telling you right now, Penn State's going to make the playoff. So all the expansion did from 4 teams to 12 teams is give lousy coaches who aren't good enough to get to a 4-team playoff the chance to get to a 12-team playoff.
I'm gonna get to some.
He's
of
a terrible coach,
Dan.
He's terrible.
All right, Stugotz. The problem with terrible is there are some things off the field that he's done that have been terrible. Record-wise, he's not terrible. He's just always good enough to be the 3rd best thing in that conference. And he did bring Penn State back from the biggest sports scandal any of us have ever seen.
Right, but he's not a very good coach. And he's always looking for the next big job.
All right,
he is.
Just you can say if you want that James Franklin is terrible. Certainly his record against Ohio State is that. He's lost against them the last 8 times. Ohio State has won that game 14 of the last 16 times. Ohio State is better than Penn State.
Right.
But before we get to college football and all the things happening in college football, let's play James Franklin here at the end of that game, doing what you have to do in this situation, which is hide that you've lost the game and fight with the fans, because we're now in the debris throwing on the field stage of college football 3 weeks in a row and fighting with fans.
You're going to be man enough to talk. What's your name?
He's yelling at a fan, if you're going to be man enough to talk, what's your name? I want to know your name. And the kid just scurries away.
This is what happens when we confront them and they get mad. Jason Kelce is being celebrated, and I'm sure the Swifties love that he's defending both Travis and that he's walking through your tailgate or your party, and he'll knock the phone out of your hands. If you want to disrespect Jason Kelce, he's not going to abide it. So you can have your video here, and I don't know if, Stugotz, if there are any consequences. Jason Kelce is taking a lot of jobs. He's worth a lot of money. This kind of stuff would hurt Jason Kelce if he weren't, in my opinion, at this point, pretty bulletproof on just about anything.
Kelce. Hey, Kelce. How does it feel your brother's a
Immediately turns around.
Can I get a fist bump? Kelce, can I get a fist bump?
Walks up to the guy with the phone and spikes it.
Yeah, spikes his phone at his feet. I imagine most people took Kelce's side on that one, right? Just once you hit him with the slur on that, you're not going to expect him to just keep walking and abiding. But are you getting the result that you want if you're the person who's goading him like that because you get your viral video of Jason Kelce snapping?
You most certainly are. That's what you're going for.
I think you want a reaction. You don't want your phone smashed.
No, but you're going for that reaction.
But I just think he was
it's your moment and you're going for it.
He wanted a reaction, and then when his phone gets smashed, he's like, now how am I supposed to get home today? I have to Uber home.
What was the public reaction to the video going viral at the Georgia-Florida game? For one half there, it looked like Miami was going to have a more impressive victory against Florida, as Florida led Georgia at the half because Georgia couldn't stop throwing interceptions. But then Georgia, we're all expecting Georgia to be in the playoff no matter what happens, even if they lose 5 times before now and the end of the season. But let's play this video of this cop just going through the stands, showing this police officer just beating people up.
It's just, I know it's isolated video. We don't see what happened before, but you see one cop laying on top of a guy, like jabbing him with his left hand, and then they've panned back to a cop just wailing on this old man's head, the top of his head. It's just not a good look here.
Just beating the holy hell out
of
Mark
as hard as you can imagine somebody dropping a fist down on someone. That's what this cop is doing to this guy.
Did you call him Mark Hochman?
He's got the hair. He's got the hair. Like look, when you this beating that's being administered, as much as I like Gators taking a pummeling, once this guy's hat is taken off to reveal that his head has been sunburned because he has the Larry David hair, that guy that is not an impressive victim to beat up once that hair is revealed.
How about that old guy still being conscious after that wailing? Is he still sitting up? Like, I would be out if that's just wailing on the back of my head.
There was another interaction like this where the cop was like using the handcuffs as brass knuckles and just punching a guy in the face. And I don't know what this person did beforehand that necessitated that force, but the guy wouldn't go down. He just kept getting hit in the eye. You see blood coming down the side of his face by his eyes. He just kept getting punched over and over again with the handcuff, his brass knuckles, and he stayed standing up. And I'm like, this is crazy. He also they tried to tase the guy. They shot him with the taser, and he just ripped them off.
Okay.
What?
Well, there was
that guy was crazy.
Wait a minute. I don't know if we're talking about the same video because this same police officer did tase somebody. It wasn't at this game though. It was different footage, and there was a tasing involving
the same cop
same police officer
that was wailing on the old guy. There's another older video of him seeming to go to the taser a little quick with a guy who seems to be refusing to leave. But this guy, not the first time he's been tased, because you could just tell the way he's shielding off the tase. That's a man that's been tased before.
It's almost always funny to see someone tased, correct?
Not going to put that one on the poll.
No, but I just if I tell you, let me put it another way. You're scrolling through video, and all I've put on the subject line is want to watch someone get tased.
Private moment? Yeah, I'll laugh.
Just here's a video of someone being tased. I don't know what the next few days in America are going to look like.
Hopefully not like this video we're watching.
The reason I'm laughing at this now preemptively is I'm apologizing for what I'm not going to be able to laugh at in a couple of days when video makes an appearance of police officers behaving badly in other places. We can agree, right? Even absent context, we can agree that is not the way for a police officer to behave. And we can also agree that most people around that video are probably commenting that that's how that police officer should be behaving.
Using cuffs as brass knuckles? Yeah, probably not. Probably not police procedure there.
I need to know more, though, right? I mean,
but I'm asking you just I don't know. I'm just basing it on the sample size of what the last 8 years have wrought. I'm asking you a question.
It seems excessive.
Well, no, I'm not just asking you if it seems excessive. It's obviously excessive.
I don't know what happened.
It's without question excessive. That's not police training on how it is you arrest someone, Stugotz.
Certainly not hot.
That is not proper police work. I don't know what you're defending, but I don't need much context to know the 12th punch, not proper police work. Beating on the back of Mark Hochman's head, not proper police work.
Yeah.
But what is the commentary around that video? Because I would imagine most people are defending the police officer behaving as the police officer wishes to behave. Do I have this wrong? Am I bringing my bias to it? I've got it wrong.
I think no one should really speak on it without the important context. It's pretty dramatic video, and yeah, a lot of people are taking sides based off of not having a complete picture there. And I'm not always one to give the police a benefit of the doubt, but I am literally jumping in the middle of him across the top turnbuckle, asking the audience to count several punches to this dude's face.
I am certain.
I'm confused. Do you think people are defending the police officer's action in the video?
Yes.
I saw an article where they were saying, "Oh, if you see the guy's hand is around the cop's waist, and if a hand goes anywhere near waist, the cop has full right to just defend himself." So that's the only defense that I've seen, is that the guy's hand was
Mark
near his
Hochman
waist.
wasn't taking his gun.
That's fair. I'm just saying that's what the defense is.
His head was sunburned because he'd been out in the cocktail party all day. He'd been drinking since 9 a.m. He wasn't even not going down because he was conscious. He'd been drinking for so long that he wasn't going down under any circumstances.
But it's so obviously excessive. Don't you ask yourself, what did the guy do? What did the guy do? What did he say? What did he do? I need more.
If you must know my initial thought, I was like, on a week like this week, we really couldn't afford the races being swapped. Oh, old white guy involved, and he's not the cop? Okay, cool. We'll move on. We're past the cocktail party. We're into election day.
How are we covering trade deadline stuff tomorrow? Are we just going to bury ourselves, hide under blankets, and just bury ourselves in sports, trying to just squeak out, are the Dolphins a seller or a buyer? I Stugotz, wonder whether any of us can talk about what Bill Barnwell is reporting in that weird Saints-Panthers game.
Oh.
The Saints had 150 more yards in the game. The Saints had 150-plus rushing yards in the game. The Saints also won the turnover battle. When those three things happen, they've happened 275 times. Those teams before yesterday were 275-0.
Mm-hmm.
The Panthers just won a game that's never been won in the history of the sport against the Saints. And that game, like Titans-Patriots, not in any way interesting except for that. The Saints started this season. Look at how fast football happened.
They were the talk of the league.
The Saints scored on their first 15 possessions and have lost every game since.
Yeah. Yeah.
They scored on their first 15 possessions of the season. They alerted all of us to the Cowboys aren't any good. Now even Dak Prescott knows it.
Right.
Dak Prescott's wandering the sidelines, and people are reading his lips, Stugotz, and he's just saying, we suck.
Mm-hmm.
He's just saying it flatly because they clearly do. Like, there's not even any dispute for this. The fact that the Cowboys are going to Atlanta yesterday, and
we effing suck if you really look at what it is he's saying.
Yes, thank you, Stugotz.
Yeah.
An important correction.
Yeah.
The Cowboys lose against the Falcons, and we can proclaim everything they're done, yes? We can
Dallas?
Yeah. We can say Ezekiel Elliott was out for disciplinary reasons. When do you ever see that in that
with
sport?
him occasionally.
Yeah.
Specific to that player, you see him get disciplined occasionally.
He was a healthy scratch though, so it makes you think,
Apparently
right?
Didn't show up.
Deadline day.
No, he wasn't a healthy scratch. He was disciplined.
Well, he was healthy when he was disciplined.
He can both be out because of discipline and a healthy scratch.
If we're playing the transitive,
both right.
If we're playing the transitive property game, that Cowboys team got handled at home by a Saints team that just found a way to lose the first ever type of game like that in NFL history to Bryce Young. So I would say, yeah, they're done. And I would agree with Dak Prescott's assessment of the situation.
I love Derek Carr before the game saying, quote, "I'm not a savior." Has anyone ever spent a single second of a single day thinking to themselves, oh, Derek Carr, savior?
There were that 2 weeks where murder rates in New Orleans were down because he was performing well.
Derek Carr has now lost to every NFL team except the Raiders.
Oh.
The Carr family, one of the great losing quarterback families of all time.
At least Derek Carr could hang his hat on the fact that he wasn't involved in those other murders, but then he killed Chris Olave.
Right.
Are there any other families in this conversation?
I'm trying to think of who would be in second place. I think Dan is
cheap
right.
rhetorical trick by me. They're rare as two quarterback brothers who get to play in the NFL and then both spend all their time losing.
The Mannings are the winning family.
The Olave thing was disturbing yesterday. I know they get out of that very quickly on the red zone. But I'm telling you, one of the funny things, dark funny, but funny, is my wife having just the faintest of tastes of football on Sunday. And every time she looks up, she's looking at me because somebody is being carried off the field on the shoulders of two guys, or there's a stretcher on the field.
People are praying.
Or there's a cart on the field. Right. And because she doesn't really care at all about football, she's like, how is this allowed to happen? Like, how this is so inhumane that they keep stopping these games because there are bodies on the field.
It's a great question. We don't have an answer, but don't you dare take it away from me.
No, I know.
Don't.
I'm just saying it's a funny thing to see through her eyes, because even I, for as much as I complain about it, even I'm actually immune to how often a guy's down with an ankle injury.
You got to show her one of the good plays. Show her like a guard pulling one of these days. Just be like, yeah, this happens too.
Uh-oh.
What?
You got that right. We have breaking news inside the NFL.
Oh, no.
Given the stats that Dan read off prior to giving the score of that Panthers-New Orleans game, Dennis Allen, who's proven to be quite a terrible coach, has been relieved of his duties by the New Orleans Saints.
Huh.
The Raiders also made an offensive coordinator change. We're at that point in the season when the teams start making some play-calling moves, and all of a sudden, Stugotz, everybody was all gung-ho on Antonio Pierce with the Raiders. And then when Minshew's your quarterback for a whole season, good luck with that. Good luck. You'll get excited about Minshew for a couple of minutes, and then you'll go 2-6, and your season will be done, and everyone will be fired.
Derek Carr has the most losses as a starting quarterback through 4 seasons, 5 seasons, 6 seasons, 7 seasons, 8 seasons, 9 seasons, 10 seasons, and he's tied with Archie Manning through 11 seasons. How about that? Derek Carr, savior.
Impressive you said gung-ho. Most people misspeak and say gun-ho.
They do.
Is that right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Like Stu is learning right now. It's not gun-ho.
I did know that. Yeah.
What were the games yesterday that got your attention? What were the games?
The Xfinity 500 in Martinsville, for one.
Not the endings or drama, close games, witching hours always going to which. I'm talking about the stuff that alerted you to how good someone is. We can now close the book, right? We're in agreement. The Buffalo Bills are good. Yes, hard stop. Like they're one of the best teams of the last 5 years. One of the 5
Josh
best
Allen's
teams.
really good.
He's good.
I don't know about the Bills.
Okay, but if your quarterback's really good, so's your team.
No, not always.
With few exceptions.
I can tell you what I learned yesterday and listen, they had a bad loss a week ago. They tend to do that. But Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, that team can win the Super Bowl.
Okay.
That team can win or lose in the first round.
Perfect passer rating day, right?
Yeah,
he was
great.
unbelievable.
He was great.
He's throwing some absolute darts this
He's
season.
amazing.
He's had a couple of perfect passer rating games, and yesterday was one of them. He's putting up statistics that suggest a mastery that's unusual as they run the ball better than everyone in the sport. And they're beating a Broncos team at home where Sean Payton, all of a sudden, for reasons I can't understand, on 4th down is throwing a double reverse pass to Bo Nix.
That play worked.
I know it worked, but like what?
Good throw, good catch.
Yes,
I like Bo Nix.
You do?
Yeah, scrappy.
I was starting to see it with Bo Nix, and then that was a pretty rough game.
The Ravens can do that on any Sunday to any team in the league. It's absurd that Derrick Henry was available for 1 year, $9 million. They had the best rushing attack in the sport a couple of years ago in the sport's history, and this team is better than that one. But if they're up 10 in the 4th quarter, I still expect them to lose.
I mean, the Bengals game's going to be tough, right? Like, you could see the Ravens losing the Bengals game.
Yeah. Thursday
Joe
night,
Burrow
right?
has been good this year.
He's been great.
Yeah, he's been
Yeah,
great.
Sean. Watch out for those Bengals.
Isn't he the? There are only a couple of quarterbacks who have 20 touchdown passes.
He's a dude.
and he's one of them.
He's
right?
the dude that I trust to go into Kansas City and to upset Baltimore because they can't hold that offense below 13 points. And historically, if the opposing offense scores more than 13 points in the playoffs, Lamar Jackson doesn't win. I trust Joe Burrow. And I every week I just find myself taking more futures on the Bengals to win the AFC just because he's got that it quality. I trust him. I've seen it. Proof of concept. Derrick Henry, by the way, who is available for $9 million, his yards per carry is now 6.3.
Crazy.
That's about 2 more yards than it was last year. He actually has, and this isn't a real national talking point, but he has a shot at his age for a 2,000-yard rushing season.
That's insane. There are 3 quarterbacks with 20-plus touchdowns this year. Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Baker Mayfield.
There's 3 5-touchdown games by quarterbacks this year, 2 of them by Joe Burrow.
Max Crosby is going to be traded tomorrow, right? When we speak of the Raiders,
Lions?
he
The
doesn't.
owner-
He doesn't want to be traded.
Owners come out and said pretty strongly that's not going to happen. I'm not going to. It's the NFL. Maybe someone gives them a Godfather offer, but both Max and their owner have been really strong. The second that there's an inkling of this stuff, they squash it out.
Have you guys seen games played, snaps played for Max Crosby?
He never takes plays off.
Never misses time of any kind. Missed like 1 game last year, and I think it's the only time he's missed time of any kind.
That's when I'll believe in the Detroit Lions because I think in missing Hutchinson, that's such a special quality. The Crosby, Garrett, Micah Parsons, T.J. Watt tier. Hutchinson was right there on the precipice of it. And, hey, if there's a game on the line here, there's a chance this pass rusher touches the football. If they can find a way to grab from that same tier and replace Hutchinson, then I'll get off my I trust 2 coaches in the NFC West thing, and Detroit's going to be representing
Put
the
it
NFC.
on the poll, please, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Have the Rams and Seahawks been playing that game for 12 straight years? Can you guys help me with how surprised you were or were not on Geno Smith dropping back to pass, trying to tie the game, and throwing a 103-yard interception return? There are certain quarterbacks. You know, I like these Sam Darnold stories, and I like these Geno Smith stories, and I like when I look up and Geno Smith leads the sport in passing and completions. But once that gets to a playoff game, I do not believe that will win in the playoffs. You can get here with your charming, quaint story, but your Josh Dobbses and whatever it is you think's going to win in the playoffs, it's not going to win in the playoffs.
Red zones, bad spots for those things. I was surprised, but then I saw he threw it to former All-American Cam Kitchens, and I realized
Twice.
this
Right.
is just a ball hawk.
Mm-hmm. But Dan is right. Geno Smith can only take you so far.
I mean,
right?
but that's what we thought about Jared Goff, too, right? And we're saying that they're going to go to the Super Bowl.
But Jared
What's the
Goff
big
went to a
difference?
Super Bowl. Like, he's been to a Super Bowl.
Terrible interceptions in the red zone. That's the difference for me.
Well, one of the differences.
I mean, but Geno's had a great completion percentage. He's led the league in passing for weeks also.
Yeah,
Like,
but he's still Geno.
okay. I mean, that's what you would have said about Jared Goff, too.
Maybe.
It's totally fair what Billy's doing. The difference is that the last 6 games of Lions football make us think they're the best team in the league, and I've been watching Geno Smith have that game for a long time on what it feels like is the 9-8 era of those Seahawks. They're going to go 9-8 every season, and that's as good as they're going to be, and it's as bad as they're going to be, and they're going to be the same team every season.
NFC West has a bad publicist because I think people think that division is bad when it's just hotly contested. I trust those teams to lay a number on the road against the Detroit Lions. We saw it in Week 1 with the Rams. I trust if the Niners, who get healthy at the right time, march into Detroit without
with the
them not
Niners.
making a move. I trust those teams. And I trust – I mean, there was a feisty Monday night effort when these 2 teams played when Geno went up against Detroit.
Yeah.
I trust that. Kyler Murray running around in the backfield like crazy with a back door wide open. I trust this
All right,
team.
you know what?
I trust it to the division.
I love a good stroll into an opposing stadium during playoff time, but not with Brock Purdy. I don't. That's where I have to draw the line.
Okay.
If I'm walking in with Brady, I feel good. If I'm walking in with, Patrick Mahomes, I feel great, even though last year I said that's the team that I want. But if I'm walking in with those guys, I feel good.
What
I'm
about
walking in
Lamar?
with Brock Purdy, nah, not Lamar. But I'm walking in with Purdy. I'm not feeling too good. I'm feeling like I'm
led
going to
late
lose.
in that Super Bowl against Patrick Mahomes.
So just to be clear, Stugotz is walking in with Mahomes or Brady, two of the best ever. He's feeling okay. All right, got it.
Yeah, maybe Goff.
All right,
I mean, maybe
okay.
maybe Jaden Daniels.
Maybe.
Maybe Jaden.
No,
maybe
just
Forget
got
Jaden.
it.
Burrow.
Okay,
Don't
good
forget
analysis.
Burrow.
Joe Burrow.
Okay.
Joe Burrow. Feeling
This
good with
is
Joe.
the question that I want
Maybe
to ask.
Jaden Daniels.
Stafford.
Maybe.
How do you
Billy
feel
Gill.
about Stafford?
Nah, I don't feel
Dan,
great
how do
with
you feel
Stafford.
about Stafford? Did you
you're-
see that pass at Seattle?
Now you're walking side by side with Stafford into a stadium playoff environment. It's a playoff game. It's a road playoff game. How do you feel with Stafford?
Stafford has a great PR
Really,
person.
you feel fine?
People love Matthew Stafford.
Oh, he's overrated.
Moxie. But he's tough as
About
nails.
Stafford, please. I want to hear about him.
Okay, again, way to go out on a limb with Mahomes and Brady. You'd
Burrow.
stride into the
Burrow.
stadium.
Burrow.
with
Maybe
them.
Jaden. Yeah.
Stafford, too.
The thing that I wanted to ask
I don't
Billy.
know why I'm turning into Biden. Come on.
Josh Allen, is he on your list?
Oh,
Super Bowl champ.
yeah, Josh.
Come on.
Yeah.
Joe Biden.
Jordan Love?
No.
He's played out of that? Oh, man, you called him the greatest quarterback in the NFL last year.
I did, yeah. That was then. This is now. I mean,
It is exasperating the way that Stugotz cannot be held to any opinion from week to week, doesn't remember what he said, doesn't know when he's contradicted himself. The thing that I do think is fair, though, in however it is that we talk about this sport, for however it is that we analyze it, is Billy's contention, and I want to have this conversation with all of you, that you can't trust a single goddamn thing in that sport. That you don't trust anything, you don't trust anyone. There are like 6 quarterbacks you might trust, and you don't trust any other thing in the entire sport.
I think Billy has a guy that he trusts every single week, and that guy is Justin Jefferson. You were telling me this morning that you thought he was so great.
I mean, he is good.
Right. You don't trust him on a weekly basis?
Not
Did he
his
great?
quarterback, no.
Oh, well, his quarterback.
Yeah.
J.J. McCarthy's interesting. I wonder what's going to happen there because Darnold's going to get paid in the offseason. And the whole model for the Vikings is to draft J.J. McCarthy and have the quarterback on a rookie contract. But how do you not pay Sam Darnold after this?
The crazy thing about it is that, like, on everybody's list of quarterbacks you trust is Patrick Mahomes. And if you look at the stats, like, I don't trust him this year.
Yeah.
He's not been that great this year. He hasn't been Patrick Mahomes this year.
Mm-hmm.
But when things get clicking, Dan, the
watch
Chiefs
out.
are going to take off.
Yep.
Get him now.
It
Get him
bothers-
now.
It bothers me that Stugotz is saying that Sam Darnold's going to get paid.
He will get paid by someone.
Just
He's gonna get
bothers
paid.
me.
You don't think he's going to get paid by
It
someone?
just bothers me.
I know it does, but he will.
I'm just marveling at the fact that we can't get a dozen people who can play this position well.
The Titans could pay him. Oh, man. Imagine him in Tennessee. It would be a disaster.
In the world, that we can't scour the world, can't find someone somewhere that can play this position so that I don't have to pay Sam Darnold and so that I don't have to watch Week 9 Flacco against Minshew, game with no stakes because everyone's hurt, and we can't keep 12 good we can't find 12 good quarterbacks, and we sure can't keep them healthy.
So Geno Smith, coming off a couple of good seasons, just got 3 years, $75 million.
Yes, fine.
What do you think Darnold's going to
Yeah,
get?
fine. Pay them against my will. Pay them. And you're not winning anything. Okay, we'll talk all season about Flores and Darnold, and you're going to get to a playoff game, and in the first round after a bye, you're going to lose. Why? Because Sam Darnold's your quarterback. I'm not going to be talked out of this.
I mean, but, like, if you go by the results, same thing happens to Lamar. Like, once you get in the playoffs, things go crazy.
Daniel Jones got a contract based on one playoff game.
All right, help me with what Daniel Jones's halftime stats were yesterday. It seemed like a riddle to me.
He had 0 passing yards, right?
Well, he was 4 for
But
6
2
for a
completions.
touchdown and 0 passing yards, and I don't understand how that happened. I think he was 4 for 6 for 0 yards and 1 touchdown.
Oh, he had moxie on that run, though.
But explain to me what happened. How was he 4 for 6 for 0 yards and 1 touchdown at halftime?
I mean, it would seem as though he had negative receiving passes.
Maybe a Jalen Waddle situation where you catch it and just run back 27 yards.
He was 4 of 6 for 0 yards with a touchdown and a fumble lost.
He went 670 days between having a home touchdown. They paid him $160 million. Listen to me, Vikings. Over my dead body, do you pay Sam Darnold? I'm not going to be talked out of this.
I'm with you. He had some bad throws
You
last
guys
night.
can't come to me with 7 games that have surprised you, or 8 games, and come to me and say Sam Darnold isn't what I've always seen Sam Darnold be.
When is the sample size big enough in which you would say, I would sign Sam Darnold in the offseason? NFC Championship game?
He's losing in the first round of the playoffs in a home game.
I think Collinsworth said last night that it would take them getting to the Super Bowl for them to keep him. That it's all set up for J.J. McCarthy.
You guys have someone else paying him, and I'm offended by that.
Why?
The Jets.
Oh, no, he's going to get something.
Someone's going to get. There's a Titans out there. The Raiders are.
Carolina should try him.
He's not going to get 50 like Tua, but he'll get something.
I think Carolina found their quarterback yesterday.
Bryce Young got his second coach fired.
I felt good for him. I did.
He didn't deserve to win that football game. He still looks like a kid in a Halloween costume.
He's been through it, man. Give him a W. I mean,
I'm happy that he doesn't have to lose all the time. It feels like it would
Put that on a graphic.
in that
Dan Le
sport.
Batard.
I am.
I'm happy he doesn't have to lose all the time.
I'm happy that he gets to win one occasionally, but they did not deserve to win that football game. 276 games have been played like that, and that's the first time that his team, the team on his side of the statistics, has ever won that football game.
Did Wally Pip the Red Rifle?
maybe.
Because I don't know that the Red Rifle's going to get that job back. I mean, they have equal number of wins here.
The Red Rifle I'm watching, and I see on the sidelines they say, and he's out this week, he and his family in a car accident.
Yep.
Hurt his wrist.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the game's not violent and dangerous enough that he's always getting, and he's also getting injured when he's off the field, and that's Carolina football. Will it be Andy Dalton off a car accident, or will it be Bryce Young?
I have a fun New York-centric little social media riddle if you'd like to play along with it. It's cross sports.
Really?
And this is the question that people were being asked.
Okay.
Would you take 10 years of Juan Soto on the Yankees, but also you need to commit to 10 years of Daniel Jones on the Giants at the same time?
Cross sports pollination?
Yeah, so you get him for sure for 10 years, Juan Soto, but you need Daniel Jones on the Giants for 10 years as well. Do you agree to that?
10 years
Can
of
you
Daniel
bench
Jones.
Daniel Jones?
Can he be your backup? That's a good question.
I guess he could,
You
right?
just assume this is dead money on your cap.
But he's eating up a lot of money, so your backup's not going to be like a super quality backup.
If I love both equally, and you tell me that I can stash him on my roster somewhere and maybe I can get hot with a rookie quarterback, yeah, I'd take that.
What if you have to start him?
If you have to start him,
If I had, if there's very few things in sports that break your spirit outside of knowing that you've got no shot at that position. You're not going to matter if you have a bad quarterback.
He had that playoff win, though. You never
He
know.
did,
Lightning in
yeah.
a bottle.
Second round.
Surround him with the right pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Billy.
He's a reclamation project for someone.
Billy.
Oh, no doubt.
No doubt. He's
Someone
a
thinks
reclamation.
they can turn Daniel Jones into
Exactly
something.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
Sean Payton, maybe that guy.
Yeah. McVay, somebody.
One of these gurus.
There's something about Bo Nix.
I mean,
you guys
put,
seeing this?
You put Daniel
I see
Jones
it,
on
yeah.
that Broncos roster, and Sean Payton gets to the playoffs with Daniel Jones.
Thank you. See? We already found a
I don't
home
know,
for
I
him.
think Daniel
There you go.
Jones is that bad. In fact, as much as made of his contract, if you look at where his contract is now slotted among
bargain,
NFL quarterbacks, it's kind of fair.
Yeah.
I think it would be fair.
It's a good question, Billy.
You move Bo Nix out to wide receiver 1.
He can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's a good question, Stugotz?
The
Because
Soto question.
Billy doesn't believe a single thing that he has just said.
How so?
What you
Soto.
Billy,
It became
Billy,
a
I'll
pro
tell you.
Daniel
I'll
Jones
tell
thing
you.
that you were doing.
Yeah,
I was
well,
struggling to
yes,
support. I
no.
started supporting, and then I was like, wait, I'm not
Billy,
pro.
this
It's a little
Daniel
mind
Jones enough.
twizzler, you know?
No, I'm going to tell everybody what happened there. Billy cares so little about every word that comes out of his mouth and keeps no track of the things that he says. So he just made the argument, and his heart wasn't in it. You get Daniel Jones a piece or two here or there. And what, Billy?
That's true.
And what?
Second round of the playoffs.
Yeah, you make a little run in the
Because you don't
playoffs,
think
you
he
get
has
hot
a,
at the right
you don't
time.
think he has a receiver now, and you don't think he had a running back last year.
I wonder what
Last
this
couple of
I
years?
wonder what this Daniel Jones would look like if Saquon hadn't been cast off. To be honest with you,
Not his fault.
Not his fault.
Yep.
I mean, it
Billy?
is because he ate up all the money, but it's not his fault.
Billy, I'm going to demand that
It's
you
all
take
Joe Shane's
your
fault.
words more seriously.
Respectfully.
I need you to have more respect for the takes that you're giving. You did not have your heart in that Daniel Jones take, Billy. Billy,
I
you
100%
farted out that
No,
take. You don't
no.
believe that,
I
Billy.
believe he's a reclamation project. Someone will pick him up and think that they can fix Daniel Jones. And if you don't,
You're just saying
you're not
words.
watching the NFL, friend.
You're not watching the NFL. I just gave you the stats.
Sam Darnold is starting
4
for the
for
Vikings.
6 for 0 yards.
Geno Smith signed a 3-year extension.
He's not telling you how to think.
He had a touchdown.
670 days between home touchdowns.
But on the road.
You don't believe a word you're saying.
I believe that someone will sign him. I don't think they should. I believe they will.
Daniel Jones has that Ryan Gosling thing going to him where each side of his face is completely different.
He's got a wandering eye.
It's just
Why?
not even lined up vertically in the same place.
Stugotz's weekend observations are going to be in a moment, but before we get into that, and before we get into what feels like a fairly giant basketball story, I heard advertised on Netflix the Paul Tyson fight in a way that called it a boxing mega event, the fight the world has been waiting for. And I think they also called it, if not the biggest event in the world, something very close to the biggest event in the world. And while I want to argue, because I hate that this is what boxing is as a spectacle, I cannot argue that I'm assuming that Netflix is going to kill it with whatever it is that this fight is, even though it's the silliest kind of circus novelty, even though whatever it is, that the size of the gloves and the headgear and the rounds, that it's not really boxing in any way. It's a 58-year-old guy against an internet celebrity. But I do think they're going to sell out Jerry's World for that. Like, is that possible that they're going to get 100,000 people there like you would for a genuine boxing match during the heavyweight age? Like, what kind of event is this going to be?
I would sound old if I said it's not possible, so it's entirely possible because it's possible. Like, Dan, I'm not going to say it's not going to happen. I actually think it's going to happen. I think he'll sell that place out.
Are we worried about Mike Tyson at all here? Or, Dan, do you still think he's going to knock Jake out? Like, how are we feeling about what's actually going to happen?
He continues to be an underdog, and I would not want a human being of any kind to fight Mike Tyson. Like, if I would like Mike Tyson's chances quickly against anybody, but I understand that he's a betting underdog, and a lot of people are worried for Mike Tyson in a way I'm not worried for Mike Tyson.
I'm curious to see how it goes. I think we'll all work ourselves up into being curious at that point, and this is really accessible given the streamer that it's on. But a lot of the wind got taken out of my sails for this when Tyson couldn't even make it through a camp without a health-related type of delay. So this is going to be a bit of a sideshow. Well, a lot of a sideshow.
I feel like we're going to know 30 seconds in whether this is going to be fun, sad, like just all
it's
fake.
funny, that 30 seconds is where I worry about Jake Paul's chances the most. Yeah. I'm more curious about like 45 seconds.
Right.
I see what you're saying.
A full minute.
A full minute
Yes.
of Mike Tyson trying to punch.
You think he just goes for it first minute? Like, let's just do this?
The odds are what the odds are for a reason.
If Tyson does not immediately go right at Jake Paul, punching as much and as hard as he can, then he will not win that fight.
If Jake is going easy on him, that's where the internet's going to turn on both of them, right? Like, this is all just a scam?
Yeah, what Dan is saying and Mike is saying, if Jake gets it to the second round, the fight's over. And I'm with them.
The way Tyson has fought his entire career, if he doesn't prowl and come at Jake Paul, even though Jake Paul has the size advantage, then you will know that Tyson has no chance in that fight. Where has that betting number gone? Because I thought when that started that Tyson would be the favorite, even understanding that Jake Paul, while not a top-tier boxer, is actually a legitimate fighter, can make a career as a fighter, even though it would be a very low-tier fighter.
I have it right now. Paul is minus 250.
So that number's climbed.
DraftKings minus 275 for Paul, plus 210 for Tyson.
So overtime, maybe because those numbers were closer the last time before the missed camp. But most people, Stugotz, I said at the time that fight was announced, I'm like, Jake Paul's an idiot. Roy knows what I'm talking about here. 58 or not, if you just watch Tyson train, nobody wants to take punches from the feet like that. Uppercuts that come. Nobody wants Mike Tyson charging at them at 58 years old or at any age.
I'm looking at the lines right now on DraftKings Sportsbook. If you're going to take Tyson, there's only one way Tyson wins this match, right? There's only one way.
Yeah.
It's by a knockout.
First round.
Yes.
Right. So instead of betting Mike Tyson at plus 210, because I don't think this one's going to scorecards, take Mike Tyson by KO or TKO or DQ at plus 350.
You can take either of them just to win in the first or second round. Like, if you're just like, this is not going to last long, however it ends, you get good money on Jake Paul to win the first or second round.
There's going to be an entire generation of people watching that fight having no idea what Mike Tyson was.
That is correct. It's going to be. Look, Mike Tyson fought against Roy Jones Jr. many years ago, and that was also sad. Like, wildly sad. But this is going to do numbers. Of that, I have no dilution.
I don't think it's going to do like Brady roast numbers. Like, I don't think it's going to get everyone watching this thing. I think it's going to do well for it's going to do better than most boxing matches do. I agree with you on that.
I don't know how much Netflix gives out that information because they tend to be very careful about that information and they just speak in generalities. Like, they'll tell you that the Brady roast did better than any other comedy special, but they won't give you the specifics of the numbers. I'm assuming that this will be the biggest fight that Jake Paul has ever had and will be a wild success for Netflix as a foray into live sports programming. By any definition, if the Brady roast was that, I believe that this will do Brady roast numbers. It'll do better than Brady roast numbers. They can fill an arena. You don't think this will do better than the Brady roast?
I just think boxing is more niche than like comedy.
This isn't boxing. This is fame. This is circus. This is event nonsense.
But I think Jake Paul's numbers have gone down. Like, you know, he came out of the gates hot, and I don't see outside of us right now. I don't hear like SportsCenter's not talking about it. I just don't know if this is going to be.
You've just got two demos, is all. You've got both demos. You got 18 to 34, right, and you got the people who want to see, wait a minute, I remember what Mike Tyson was. And Mike Tyson, if he's charging at you and you're in the corner, whoever on earth you are, you do not want any of that. 58 or not. Like, that's not something you think you can hit cleanly and hurt for 45 seconds.
Is this something that like an ESPN would be rooting against because it's Netflix and it's like another lane for live sports? So like ESPN might not cover this because it doesn't want it to succeed? I might be wrong about that. I'm just kind of thinking out loud.
ESPN covers best the things that they have partnerships with, and that tends to be pretty standard. They helped the NHL a great deal when they were partners with the NHL, and then it vanished from their network when they weren't partners with the NFL.
I bet First Take will have them on like either this week or early next week as like a hype thing.
Tyson Paul? I doubt it.
I could see them being on First Take. That's the only ESPN show I could picture covering it.
Because of Tyson, though, right?
Just because Stephen A. fancies himself a boxing guy.
Yeah.
Are you ready for weekend observations, Stugotz?
I am.
All right.
It is time for Stugotz to share his game notes. No one in the media will tell you what happened better than my boy Stu.
Weekend observations brought to you by Miller Lite. Great taste, just 96 calories, available for delivery. Dan, Tuesday night is one of the most important nights in our country's history, with the potential to completely change the future. Suspense, drama. It will be must-watch TV as we already are a nation divided by allegiances.
What?
Was that the word already? Was there an
already?
Was there
already a nation divided by allegiances is what I was trying to say. Hearts will be broken. Enough with all the polls. It's time for the people to decide. And Dan, just like that, make no mistake about it, the college football playoff show is back. You excited?
Yeah.
We're going to find out the rankings according to the committee.
Biggest story of the day tomorrow.
They're going to look over resumes.
Yes.
They're not going to, right? It's going to be 0 losses, 1 losses, 2 losses, right? That's how they're going to do it? The way we've always done it?
Pick 12 teams.
Yeah. Speaking of back, Jameis Winston is back to being Jameis Winston. Saquon Barkley, best 14-yard run in NFL history. 12-team playoff this year. Don't forget. Reminder, it's 12. Just letting you know. Tomorrow night's the biggest night in the history of this country.
You mentioned that. Yep. Yes, in the history of this college football, this great college football land.
Mm-hmm. Syracuse with the rare walk-off fumble recovery. Shohei Ohtani, do it without Freddie Freeman. Doug McDermott is a Sacramento King. Shohei Ohtani, do it as a pitcher. Shohei Ohtani, do it batting better than 100. Shohei Ohtani, do it for the other Los Angeles team. Dan, you know what the S in Shohei Ohtani stands for?
I don't.
It stands for the 6th or 7th best player on his own team. You agree?
I do not.
You know what the O in Shohei Ohtani stands for? It stands for 0 for 4 in the clinching game. There were 6 players better than Ohtani in that series. In the postseason, 6.
In the postseason? No,
Yep.
not in the postseason. In the World Series.
Freeman.
Not in the postseason.
Mookie Betts.
You weren't watching
That's
the
2.
NLCS.
Kiki.
You weren't watching the NLCS. Your Mets played in the NLCS.
Yeah.
You weren't watching it?
No. Anyway. Aaron Judge making 0 errors all year until dropping an easy pop-up in Game 5 of the World Series. He was due. Aaron Judge, allow me to introduce you to Bill Buckner. Yankees choked. You hate to see it. And by hate to see it, I mean you absolutely love to see it. Juan Soto says he doesn't have any doors closed and that he'll be available to all 30 teams. That had to be news to the Athletics.
How great was that right after the game?
He did not waste any time.
In the losing clubhouse, he's like, I'm open for business.
Yeah.
Any one of you teams who wants to offer me anything, I will take your hundreds of millions of dollars. I'm taking all meetings. It was so good.
But when he says that, he's available to all 30 teams. The A's don't believe him, right?
They don't, no. You got him, Stugotz. He should have said all 29 is what he should have said, except for Oakland and the Marlins. 28 is what he should have said.
To all 28 teams.
28 real teams, real major league teams.
That would have been funny. Congratulations to the Dodgers. All it took was the largest payroll in franchise history and committing $1.4 billion in future salaries to 5 players this past offseason. Taylor.
It was $1 billion, right?
1.4. The Padres were the second best team in baseball. They had them on the ropes.
They did.
What is happening to me? Freddie Freeman won the World Series MVP playing on one ankle and with a broken rib. Hockey player, except for the teeth. Those are not hockey teeth. They wouldn't be in his mouth. You guys agree?
They're good teeth.
Tip of the cap to one Bob Costas.
Wow.
It's a good run, man.
42 years.
It's a great run. Legendary run. How was Bob last week?
He's mad at Billy.
Oh. Why?
He thought Billy was disrespectful to his career. I think he said Billy doesn't know jack. I think is what he said.
Interesting.
He didn't mention me by name. Dan's pinning it on me, but that's fine.
He's mad at Dan, really.
It's either you. It's either you or Stugotz.
I said nothing but good things about Bob Costas.
Can't be anyone else.
I didn't say anything about him. I just tipped my cap to him. What else am I supposed to do?
He said someone around here didn't know jack about his career. That's what he said.
Dodgers hosting the World Series parade on Fernando Valenzuela's birthday. Goosebumps. Dallas Cowboys. It's over.
Does
Everything.
feel like that. Yeah.
It does, right? Belichick?
It is weird that McCarthy still has a job. I think we can agree on that.
It's also weird that the Falcons and Commanders got it right by not signing Belichick.
Belichick not having a job is one of the strangest uncovered stories in the sport. To go from you're the best, we all know you're the best, hey, nobody wants you.
Give it time. Ohio State and Penn State should have been played at night. C.J. Stroud, sophomore slump. C.J. Stroud leads the NFL in sacks that take you out of field goal range.
It does happen to him a lot.
It does.
Geno Smith would like a word.
You're right. Apple picking, overrated. Steve Martin and Martin Short have looked the same for the last 30 years.
It's
How?
true. Yeah,
How?
It's true.
They look great.
Yeah, they look exactly the same.
For those keeping track at home, Mike Norvell should now spell his last name with 8 L's.
Omarion Hampton had 5 touchdowns against FSU.
If you've seen one Penn State-Ohio State game, you've seen them all. Joel Embiid got into an altercation with a reporter and pushed him. A brotherly shove. Thank you. Death, taxes, and James Franklin losing that game. James Franklin versus Ryan Day in a big game. Something had to give, and it's usually James Franklin.
Often is.
Yep. Lincoln Riley, fraud. Dylan Raiola, looking like Patrick Mahomes, only works when you're not losing to UCLA at home. He's got to get a new act. You can't do this and be that bad. You can't do it. Because you're pretending to be the greatest quarterback that has ever lived, him or Tom Brady, and yet you're losing to UCLA at home, traveling across the country. It's a bad team. I don't know if that's traveling across the country now that I think about it.
You mentioned Lincoln Riley. They are 12-12 in their last 24.
Fraud. Yep. If you throw a flag, call a penalty. No picking it up.
Slippery slope.
Yep. Some NFL GM is going to draft Carson Beck. And I'm telling you right now, Dan, he will get that GM fired. Gunslinger. Dallas Cowboys. You had Dan Quinn in your building last year. Indiana. Little good news, little bad news. Good news, you are 9-0. Bad news, your coach is leaving.
They had their first deficit this weekend. They fell down 10-0. And then what'd they do? They won by 30.
Yeah.
Indiana's going to be a playoff team, correct?
Yeah, that's the good news.
But they're going to get in, right? I mean, they
play Ohio State still.
Yeah, but they can lose still
and still get in.
One
not
loss,
when you're Indiana.
When you're Indiana,
you don't have the luxury.
You have to be perfect.
You fall hard.
Yeah.
Really? A one-loss Indiana team might get in this year, though. It's 12 teams, guys.
They
Reminder.
might.
Right.
You think we thought it was 4? We know.
It's a little
Just
aggressive.
a reminder.
It's a little aggressive for this first-year playoff 12-team format.
Because they have to beat Ohio State, and then they have to win the Big Ten championship, or they have 2 losses.
Yeah.
But you don't believe they're legitimately good as a team that keeps putting up 40 against everyone they're playing against?
I think they're good. I just think that they're not going to skate into the college football. It's a nice story, but Cinderella. It's about to be midnight.
I refuse to believe someone in the NFL is actually named Ladd McConkey. Army took care of business. Navy, it was fun while it lasted. And, of course, we thank you for your service.
Always.
Duke was up by 11 midway through the third quarter and didn't cover a 21-point spread. Bad beat. Oh, was that bad?
Pat Forty was gloating on Twitter. He was preening around. It was my lock of the week on the podcast.
Oh, 40.
How the hell was Miami a 20-point favorite, 28-17? He was preening.
Still roaming around, huh?
Old Pat Forty was roaming around preening. It was my lock of the week on the podcast.
Detroit Lions, buzzsaw for now. Remember when the Saints were 2-0 with the best offense in NFL history. It was a great time.
2-7.
Football.
The 2-7 Saints.
Football. Weird sport.
It is.
It's odd. Congratulations to Daniel Jones for throwing his first touchdown pass at home in 672 days. Speaking of congratulations to Jameis Winston for throwing his 100th career interception. I think he's done it faster than any quarterback in the history of the league.
Derrick Henry scored his 100th touchdown yesterday, and Jameis Winston threw his 100th interception. I feel like we should have all stopped and had big ceremonies, like confetti cannons, for both of those things.
Don't look now, but Steve Kerr is actually coaching. Los Angeles Chargers flying under the radar. Injured Steph, no more Clay, and the Warriors are 5-1 with a point differential of 18 points per game. How?
They're scoring 130 points every game.
I've never been more nervous watching someone perform the victory formation than I was watching Bryce Young. Wasn't sure he knew how to do it.
I'm happy that Bryce Young doesn't have to lose all the time. Makes me happy.
He's won 4 NBA championships as a head coach, and yet the first 6 games of this season has been Steve Kerr's best coaching job of all time.
Chris, why are you shaking your head?
This is a ridiculous take, but I like it.
I mean, 5-1 with that team. The most dominant team in the sport, they are.
Best job of his career, you said.
Yes. I mean, you know how many coaches win with that team?
7?
More. 7, though. You push back on me there. I think of the 7 coaches.
It's okay. We don't have
Thibodeau win with that team?
Just keep it going.
Just
keep it moving.
Spo.
Just keep it going, please.
Kevin Harlan's.
Harlan's?
Well, it's an apostrophe S. He's saying he didn't read
Kevin
it
Harlan's.
It's Harlan's.
Kevin Harlan's.
He read it wrong. Yeah, you got it right, Roy. You're correct.
It was the greatest call in broadcasting history.
There you go.
If your team wins on a 61-yard field goal, guess what? You didn't lead your team on a game-winning drive in my personal record book.
Oh, wow.
Sorry, Josh Allen. StugottsBook.com. Buy it today. Jadeveon Clowney is a Carolina Panther.
I saw that yesterday. Yeah, kept getting sacks late in that game.
Shocking, right?
Yeah.
I had to look up Clowney on the Panthers to make sure it was Jadeveon.
Yeah.
It was. When the announcer said, quote, "This is Bryce Young's 3rd career win," I was shocked. Seemed like too many.
I'm happy that Bryce
I'm not
Young
trying to be mean to the kid.
doesn't have to lose all the time.
I disagree with that.
What do you mean?
You're trying to be mean to the kid.
3 seemed like a lot at the time.
Didn't you want the Jets to trade for him?
I did. And I still do.
Well, Anthony Richardson, if you believe reports, might be done at Indy.
Why didn't the Colts use him in like short yardage situations last night? They should have. Terrible coaching. Should be fired.
Who should be?
Whoever their coach is.
Okay, good.
Okay, good work. Never has the microphone, radio / podcast person calling for a firing had less weight behind it than Stugotz trying to have someone fired with no information, not even the coach's name.
There's plenty of weight behind it, though.
You've devalued the fire the coach. You've devalued it by uttering it with
it's my goal.
Yeah, it's you. Well, you have. You've succeeded. You have met your life goals of making the coaching firing, as spoken by a media member, less relevant than it's ever been.
Thank you. The Eagles are 6-2, while having only scored 7 points in the first quarter of the entire season.
That's funny.
That's crazy.
They scored their first touchdown yesterday, or first points of any kind in the first quarter yesterday.
Football. Weird sport.
It is. It's good analysis.
Thank you.
It's good analysis
Thank
from
you.
God Bless Football. Stugotz says, weird sport, and Billy's, I trust nothing. I trust nobody.
I'm still, like, in the back of my head, Mondays are tough. I'm still trying to figure out if I said Indiana's playing in the Big 10 or Big 12 championship, because I don't remember what I said, but I'm like, did I get it wrong?
Probably.
Yeah. Green Bay Packers, do it with Jordan Love. Rams should have known special teams were going to be a factor. Always is when you play a team coached by Pete Carroll.
He's not.
I was worried that Nick Sirianni was going to get fired after that win.
I would have fired him during the field goal attempt.
In the history of the NFL, no one, and I mean no one, loves special teams more than Pete Carroll. Name someone.
Mike Westhoff.
No, Wow. Wow.
He does.
There's a second guy out there.
He lived
Wow.
for special teams.
Wow.
He did.
Steve Tasker? Anyway. Stevensville ISD naming their new football stadium after Art Briles. Hell are you thinking? Hell are you doing? Speaking of hell, Art Briles. Dan, those are the weekend observations.
Let's talk for a second about that Ohio State-Penn State game because, Stugotz, it's not just that Ohio State has beaten Penn State the last 8 times they've played. It's not just that Ohio State has won that game 14 of the last 16 times. It's that Penn State got a pick 6 and was inside the Ohio State 5-yard line twice without getting points.
Yep.
And if that last goal line stand was not, here's James Franklin it, here's Penn Stating it.
Mm-hmm.
Ohio State then running the ball 11 straight times to extinguish your undefeated season.
Yes.
When you know they're going to run the ball. It's not like in terms of where it is that these teams and these programs talk about toughness, Stugotz.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that beating an opponent can feel better than doing it that way in their house at the end, where it's like goal line stand.
Yep.
You can't get a couple of yards on 4 downs. You can't get a couple of yards. And then furthermore, we're going to run the ball 11 straight times to finish this football game. You know we're going to run the ball. We're going to use up all your timeouts, and you're not going to be able to do anything about it. Your crowd is just going to sit there and watch you be Penn State again.
It has to be a great feeling to do something. Everyone knows you're going to do it. The opposing team knows you're going to do it, and yet you still do it. Because that's exactly what happened yesterday. And you're right. No, Dan, that has to feel great.
It's not just that part, though. That part's one part of it. Because, yes, it feels great to no-look pass for Cooper Kupp in the Super Bowl when Cooper Kupp's your only receiver and everyone's trying to defend Cooper Kupp. But in that sport, to do it physically.
Yes.
It's not just that they know what's coming and cannot stop it. It's that on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively, as you're in your home stadium with everyone rooting for Penn State's season to this time be different. No, it's not. Here is Ohio State being more physical than you on both sides of the ball in a way that is a physical manhandling, and then has at the end of the game James Franklin yelling at his own fans to say their names so that he can get mad at them, because he's been great, Stugotz, for Penn State, but he cannot win this game. This is not a
He never wins this game. He never wins this game. You're talking about imposing your will on another team. Yes, it's a bad way for James Franklin to lose this particular game.
What I'm saying, though, is where it is that this dominance resides on the people who have run college football over the last 5 years. Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, Ohio State. Like Michigan will sneak in there.
Yep.
But in terms of what's been the top of the sport for the last 5 to 8 years, it can't ever be Penn State, because they can't get past this team. They don't have an ability, not at home, not on the road, not with James Franklin as their coach, not with a running quarterback, not with the handing the ball off. This is supposed to be the most physical Penn State team. Oh, look what happens at the end. Not quite physical enough.
It can't be Penn State because they can't get past Ohio State, and it can't be Ohio State because they can't get past Michigan. I mean, it's crazy, man.
Michigan snuck in there also not being able to beat Ohio State.
Yes.
Michigan snuck and won a championship, but the best team for a while. Man, Ryan Day's done an awful lot of winning and still feels pressure cooker heat because hasn't won the championship from the Alabamas and the Georgias in a way that will solidify him forever. I hear him talk after games. It feels more like relief than it is joy.
But I think that's what it is at Ohio State for Ryan Day. He's 63-9 as a head coach, Dan, and people still want him to be fired. He's 63-9. He makes the playoff all the time, and yet after every game, what you're hearing is exactly that. You're right, because I sense it too. It's relief. It's not, hey, happy we won. It's relief we didn't lose.
But when he is saying after that game, that's as good a locker room as I've ever felt after a game. The reason for that is how it ended. You went into that place and physicaled a team that thought that they were on your level, and they're not.
Right.
And the difference in that game, you got to pick six, Stugotz. Your defense played good enough to win that football game, but at the end, on the road, when you've got your home fans hoping this is the year it's going to be different, they just run the ball 11 times and squeeze everything out of your undefeated season. Lucy was there. Lucy was ready to celebrate with Penn State fans. Lucy failed to deliver a home victory.
We got up at 6, drank 1 beer, 2 beers, 3 beers, 4 beers, a shooter, some liquor, some champagne, mimosas. Can I get a hell yeah? Hell yeah! We are Penn State! Thank you. You're welcome.
Hey Dan, it's me, Lucy. Hey everybody. We're here at Penn State, Ohio State, a top 5 matchup. I'm so excited. Look at this stadium. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. It's quite cold, and we got here really early to do a good job. None of the tailgates have started. So everything's going really good. This man has no shirt on. It's like 45 degrees out. And
I'm sweating. I promise you I'm sweating.
How would you guys describe Ohio State fans?
Ugly, rude,
smelly.
Go back to Ohio.
Why are you here?
Yeah.
Bandwagons. I hate them. They don't have the spirit. They don't have the heart or the drive. They don't have anything that us Penn State fans have.
I lived in the state of Ohio this summer. It is a trash state.
So outside of Ohio State, what is the worst fan base that you have dealt with?
Celtics.
Okay, that wasn't the sport we were looking for, but I like the answer.
You want football?
Michigan.
That school up north.
Michigan, yeah.
How do you rationalize being like, oh yeah, we are proud of a national title that we cheated for? Like, come on, have some class. You know, Ohio State, Michigan, no good.
And the Celtics.
I don't like the Celtics either.
I want to say to Will Howard.
You can eat a whole bag of Will Howard. Come on. Yeah, you, Will Howard. Let's go. The best student section in the country.
Who said that, though? There's no attribution to the quote. So Penn State fans are actually boycotting Big Noon kickoff today. There's college game day here and Big Noon. We walked by Big Noon with an hour until the show started. There were 2 rows of people. It was empty. They were literally having people being like, you could win $5,000 if you go to Big Noon. Please, begging people to come into the show because the fans are so mad this top 5 matchup is happening at noon. So they're fighting the power, and I honestly love it. Good for you, college football fans. You're in charge. How do you guys feel about this game always being at noon?
It's trash.
Fox can go itself.
Noon kickoff, biggest joke ever.
It just takes a lot of the energy out of the game. We're still going to show up. It's going to be raucous. Big games belong at night.
Okay, this should be the White House, really. When was the last time we were playing Ohio State with this many stakes? Come on, let's get a night game here.
Yeah, night game. This is very uncomfortable. I can't believe they make punters wear this. Have you guys ever heard of the Dan Le Batard Show?
No, but I'm very happy to be here.
Yes. What if I told you that's not the show we're on?
What is this show?
I lied. It is the show that we're on.
Okay.
Dan Le Batard, I love you, dude. Keep sending Lucy to all the big games, getting the primetime interviews. That's what it's all about. Go Penn State! We are Penn State. Thank you. You're welcome.
If Ohio State loses this game today, are we putting Ryan Day on the hot seat?
Yeah, Ryan Day's already on hot seat. You can't lose 3 to that school up north.
Now, I've been a Big Ten fan for all of my life, and I can tell you that was the most Penn State-Ohio State game of every Penn State-Ohio State game possible. There was never really the question of whether Penn State wins or loses, but rather how would they lose. Not scoring on an offensive touchdown, not good. Getting in the red zone late in the fourth quarter with the chance to tie and having the worst play calling you've ever seen and not scoring at all, not good. Having a chance to go into halftime with the lead and throwing a pick right into the back of the end zone, which everyone thought was a touchdown, not good. Overall, I would say the vibe's not good, but here in Happy Valley, the fans are great. The stadium is awesome, the tailgating was really good, and you deserve better than James Franklin. If Penn State loses today, I hate to bring it up, what does that...
Stop.
I have to ask you a question. What does that say about James Franklin?
No, that's an irrelevant question. I think he's a fun guy. He's a cool personality. I like the bald head. I like his goofy little run that he has.
I'm a big pro James Franklin guy. It's like a 3-point game, and the refs screw us over like always. Then, you know, it's okay. We'll get him next year.
It's been 8 years.
This guy should be on TV. He's great.
Do you know Penn State football?
I do know.
Watch us.
I have.
We're amazing.
What time is it? It's game time. This trip to Unhappy Valley was brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, use code Lucy, and get $20 off your first order. Terms apply. Ohio State fans, you might need that for the Big Ten Championship game. Penn State, I bet you could buy some sick wrestling tickets.
The James Franklin Penn State thing has always been curious to me because I feel like he does a good job there. He generally avoids losing the dumb ones. And, yeah, he loses against top 5 teams, but how many of those is he entering as a favorite? I'm genuinely asking. They're right where they should be. I understand why Ohio State fans are always frustrated with Ryan Day. I get that one a little bit more. You can make an argument that's the best job in the country, given resources, given location, talent-rich recruiting base, huge alumni base, great students. But Penn State, you're right where you need to be. You don't have a divine right to being in the CFP conversation. In fact, they changed the rules so your brand can just keep doing what it's been doing, which is be good, not quite good enough. That's kind of Penn State football. And James Franklin, I get being frustrated that James Franklin delivers on that expectation because you don't occasionally luck into where's the big signature win where we all think that the monkey is off our back. But Penn State is just doing fine. That should be fine.
He is 1-10 against Ohio State. He is 1-13 when facing top 5 teams. That's not fine. Penn State has a different standard, Mike. You know this.
No, let me tell you what he is.
It's hard to beat top 5 teams. I get it, but
no, I'll tell you what he is. He's Mike Gundy. He'll get you 9 wins, and he's always going to be the 3rd best in a conference that only has 2 good teams. Only 2 good teams nationally regarded. He'll always bring you 3rd best, and he's got a $56 million buyout, and he's making $8 million a year. He's brought there not just to resuscitate that after the worst sports scandal that we have seen, but he was also supposed to take a leap he can't take because he can't beat any of those top 5 teams.
For a big program, it's hard to recruit at that level against the other elite schools. I think he's doing fine.
I want to get to Columbia and the way they use the Dwayne Wade statue to try and distract the opposing kicker during a college football game this weekend. The Dwayne Wade statue has become a wonderful pop culture thing where it's a scary Halloween thing, looking more and more like Ryan Reynolds in the Deadpool crossover with the mask off as he's come out of the charred burns. We'll get to that in a second. I also want to get to the UL Monroe coach who behaved like a lunatic and just basically attacked physically his offensive lineman. But before I do that, there are some things in basketball, Stugotz, that I wanted to get to.
The Warriors?
Not the Warriors. You covered them fine through 6 games. Steve Kerr's best coaching job yet. I'm sure you've gone through many other 6-game samples in Steve Kerr's career, and I'm sure that you've researched that meticulously and are saying that with all of history's perspective behind you.
I have. All those other spans have Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. This one does not. That's why it's the most impressive.
Okay.
How about that?
Thank you. Yes, yeah. I know you've taken all of the 6-game
Name
samples.
a Warrior.
Yeah. I'm sure you've run that all through your computer, and you're doing that very responsibly. But as you represent the dumbing down of general media analysis.
Thank you.
Kevin Durant is going after Stephen A. Smith, saying, quote, I've been in the league 18 years. I've never seen Stephen A. at a practice or a film session or a shoot-around. I've never seen him anywhere but on TV talking about players and holding them to standards that he doesn't even hold himself to. He's a clown to me. He's always been a clown. To which Stephen A. responds, I will not disrespect him the same way he disrespect me. It's unfortunate that no matter how old he gets, his sensitivity seems to heighten with it, and his maturity, it doesn't. But that's something he has to deal with, not me. He's a treasure to the game of basketball. I love seeing him play, and I sincerely wish that he doesn't get swept again in the playoffs like he has 2 of the last 3 years.
That's how you do it.
Chris Cody, can you get some movie trailers? They've been at this. These 2 old rivals have been at this for a long time, threatening each other in public. He's a clown. He's a clown. I don't care what he says. I don't care what he says.
Go to practice.
I sit here today incredibly offended by the personal attack that this man has put against me.
In a world with hot takes, his takes might be the hottest.
Kevin Durant is the one that's lying.
Kevin Durant is in too deep.
You know, I made a mistake.
With a man you don't want to make an enemy out of. The Slim Reaper versus the suit with 400 buttons.
I don't want to hear from you, and nobody else should either.
McDonald's All-American.
Am I human? Do you look at me that way?
Versus McDonald's commercial.
Had I had to come on the air that next day, I can promise you it would have been very bad.
Stephen A. Smith.
Forget the numbers. You don't need them. Look at his eyes.
Versus Kevin Durant and them boys.
You the real MVP.
You won't want to be on his Journa hit list.
You don't want to make an enemy out of me. And I'm looking right into the camera. And I'm going to say it again. You do not want to make an enemy out of me. I'm not having it.
He's writing your fate, and he's up against a deadline.
Stugotz, you have heard me talk for a while, get sort of irritated for a while on the fact that Kevin Durant is one of the greatest basketball players ever, and it seems that the way that we cover him makes him less than happy with being one of the greatest basketball players ever. The whole swirl of that surrounds greatness in the social media age seems to have affected him in a way that he fights with people on Twitter and doesn't mind conflict, but also doesn't seem terribly enjoyable and doesn't seem like we are celebrating with great respect the career of an all-time great. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, that's because we're not celebrating the career of an all-time great, and that's Kevin Durant's own doing. It's not Stephen A's fault. It's no one else's fault but Kevin Durant.
Well, Kevin Durant is one of the best scorers in the history of the sport.
No doubt.
He is one of the best players in the history of the sport.
Yep, just needs a ring.
And what I would say to you as I segue into other things involving how we cover people, what's happening with Joel Embiid in Philadelphia is super interesting. And the weight of expectations in the load management age, as a guy's pretty firmly standing up for, man, my body keeps breaking. You keep seeing me play in the playoffs. I'm playing with masks. I've got vertigo. I can't see straight. Everything, I dunk and I collapse on the court. Like, there's only so much of my body I'm going to give to this regular season in a way that gets him investigated. That city is unfriendly. That city has no patience for there are now expectations around that basketball team that there haven't been since before Iverson. Iverson didn't come with these expectations.
No.
He got deeper, but nobody actually thought that any of Iverson's teams were going to end up winning the title, even as they played in the finals. What is expected of Joel Embiid, and it's the only way that the process can be successful, is if he is healthy and great. Otherwise, they will fail. Paul George returns tonight. The season has started as a disaster, Stugotz. He's shoved a columnist, and here he is, just saying flatly, and I've always admired the way that he is with the press. I've always admired that he doesn't mind being a villain. He speaks uncommonly candidly in front of microphones. And here he is telling Philadelphia, hey, I've given you too much of my body and soul to be treated this way.
I've broken my face twice. I came back early with the risk of losing my vision. Had broken fingers. I still came back. So I'm not gonna sit here and be like, when I see people saying he doesn't want to play. I've been way too much. I've done way too much, for this city, and putting myself at risk, for people to be saying that. So I do think it's bullshit. Like that dude, he's not here. Marcus, whatever his name is. I've done way too much for this city to be treated like this. So done way too much. But like I said, I wish I was as lucky as other ones, but that doesn't mean that I'm not trying and I'm not doing whatever it takes to be out there, which I'm gonna be here pretty soon.
Chris Cody accusing me of heavy breathing.
There was someone wheezing in there.
It was not me who was heavy breathing.
We cut your mic down just because we thought it was you. We still heard it, so you're off the hook.
Well, that leaves me.
Yeah, but it didn't sound like you're wheezing.
Right.
It sounded like general media surrounding Joel Embiid. I think he's mentioning the same columnist that he got into a shoving match with in Marcus Hayes and Stugotz. I thought, and for those of you who do not have any context, he said, keep my brother's name out of your mouth and keep my son's name out of your mouth, because Marcus Hayes was talking about what Joel Embiid's legacy needs to be in Philadelphia, that he's got to play games in order to make that legacy happen, and that legacy is supposed to be a tribute to his late brother and his son. And by mentioning that, I thought it was fairly benign, but simply by tying that stuff together, an athlete who is under it in Philadelphia now shoves a columnist and makes matters all the worse.
It's getting to Joel Embiid, that city, that market, the way those fans respond to a guy who has done all of the things that he said for that city and for that fan base. But he hasn't won a title, and he hasn't played more than 70 games in a single season in his entire career. And I understand why Philadelphia fans, with so much expectations, with how great of a player he is when he's out there, and then you throw in he plays in the Olympics over the summer when he probably should have been resting because the Sixers should be more important in that city than winning a gold medal on a stacked team. And so I do understand why Philadelphia 76er fans and the media are a little bit fed up with Joel Embiid, because he is such an amazing player. But he's never out there for 82 games. He's not. He's just not. Dan.
Well, the thing to me that is most interesting about this is a story that's been 10 years in the making.
Yes.
Philadelphia is a national and international laughingstock that had to have its power structure changed because they were losing on purpose to get a bunch of short-circuited dudes. It's not just Ben Simmons and Markelle Fultz. It's Nerlens Noel, Okafor. They just lost on purpose for a decade, and this is the one thing that they still have from all of that, and it physically breaks in the postseason because of how much it's asked to carry, and then it emotionally breaks before the season because he can't get out on the court, and Philadelphia's now won one game, and he's pushing columnists and feuding with the fans. God almighty, this is going to be a season of difficult expectations for that team if they think that's how they're going to knock off the Celtics.
But when they get Embiid back, and George is playing tonight, as you pointed out, they're going to be very good in the East, aren't they? Like, if Embiid gives them 50 games and Paul George plays the rest of the season, those are big ifs, massive ifs. But if they do that, they'll contend in the East.
Decade into the project, and everything still hinges on Joel Embiid's health. And the injuries stack, and the ability to bounce back gets more difficult for him. The ability to stay healthy gets more difficult because of all the previous injuries, and the same exact thing applies to Paul George. Feels like it's built on a faulty premise.
Let me ask you guys, because I tie it to the Durant thing for a reason. Does it seem fun to you guys, Embiid and Durant, trying to be franchise faces. In Durant's case, he also gave his body at the end of a run and seemed to be having so little fun that he's like, bleep this. I don't even want to win the championships in 72 games a year. I'm out of here. I don't want to do this anymore. Does it seem to you that Joel Embiid feels appreciated when he's spitting into microphones? Hey, wait a minute. What do you mean I don't care?
No.
Like, do you see how often I play with my body not functioning correctly?
No, it doesn't when you hold up that example. It seems plenty fun when he's doing the Degeneration X crotch chop and being beloved by his city and being constantly in MVP conversations because he's a face of a franchise that hasn't gotten past the second round. I mean, yeah, in his low moments, it's like it's a human experience. I'm sure sometimes it's pretty great to be Kevin Durant because of all the great things he's done on the basketball court and because of all the adulation that he's met. I'm sure it's not great when he's deciding to fight with literally anybody on social media. It doesn't matter. You can be an egg. He will hop in your DMs and argue with you. That type of sensitivity doesn't seem super appealing to me, but there's good and bad with this.
But I think Kevin Durant, that's the example that would shed some light on what it is Joel Embiid is going through. Kevin Durant told you it was not fun being the face of the franchise.
Oh, but this is...
No, he left the franchise, and he was just another face in Golden State.
So this part, though, this part is interesting when we're talking about all-time greats and how it is organizations work in service of all-time greatness. Kevin Durant did play for a franchise that clearly is run well. Oklahoma City, on coupons, knows how to run a franchise successfully to get the pieces around Kevin Durant that once had around him, Westbrook and Harden, and continues to function over the entire century we're living in. Basically has OKC mattering.
Yes.
Because of what they've built in a place where it's impossible to keep free agents. They just basically game the system, so they sign guys long term.
They draft well. I mean, they do.
But so they draft well. Now look at what is left of the process and look at the level of mismanagement that you're talking in all of the things around Joel Embiid that led to the Colangelo family running it because they were tanking so explicitly to get to the point where Joel Embiid wouldn't be out there by himself. And now Paul George is coming as help in free agency, but that ain't process. That ain't we are going to lose for 10 years and have nothing to show for it. Nothing to show for Markelle Fultz and Ben Simmons from overall #1 picks, franchise changers. They don't even play for us anymore. They're barely hanging on to the fringes of the league. Like, do you understand how poorly the whole thing has been built around him, as now they just sort of throw Daryl Morey into, get whoever you can in free agency.
I mean, I do understand. They did get Maxey, and that helps. He's a pretty good player. He's helping out.
Stugotz, it's 10 years of losing on purpose.
I know, Dan, but where they went wrong was well before Daryl Morey. It was taking Markelle Fultz when you could have taken Jason Tatum. Like, that is where the whole thing fell apart as far as I'm concerned. Because if you have Embiid and Tatum, you have multiple championships. You do. They took the wrong guy.
They built very poorly and have been mismanaged for a long time. And putting everything on the shoulders of Joel Embiid's health seems a risky way to knock out a Boston team that hasn't gotten any worse in the offseason.
But whose fault is that, though? Like, and why would you blame the fans or the media for criticizing Joel Embiid? It's all on his shoulders. I mean, doesn't he want that? He's a competitor. Doesn't he want it all on his shoulders?
I'm just saying it's
why
hard.
Would
I'm not saying.
No,
I'm just saying it must be unpleasant.
Life is hard, man.
Yeah, it's unpleasant. These are unique problems that come with the fame. I don't understand getting physical, but I do kind of understand invoking his son and his brother who passed away. It felt gratuitous. It also, I wasn't even aware that Joel Embiid had those issues going around him, and I'm not sure that's the forum for me to learn that he has those things going on. So I totally get why there might be an understanding within those in that media. When Jimmy Butler was going through his stuff with his dad, it was understood within media that this was going on, and that is not a line that you cross. So I understand why Joel Embiid is really upset by this, considering that there's a lot of people that cover that organization that probably knew that and understood that that was a third-rail discussion.
We're going to talk to Jemele Hill about this in a second, but when it comes to putting your hands on people, because I don't think that anyone can make the argument, even if Joel Embiid is upset, it is wildly unprofessional to shove a media member because you've objected. There are any number of punitive things you can do that stop before putting your hands on him. I do not have the video of this. I don't know how aggressive a shove it is, but Joel Embiid is very strong. I want to juxtapose that against what it is that happened in the UL Monroe game this weekend, because I would say in football we're a little more used to this as the kind of violence or physical put your hands on people that is okay because you have an offensive line coach here who's an authority figure. This isn't exactly good coaching. This is just frustrated dude
chasing his player.
Steam out, and then he's chasing his player. And then
I know it's terrible, but it is
shoves
funny.
his player. Yeah, and it is also funny. So
looked like he had to stop himself from kicking him.
Yeah,
He tries to throw the headset, but it's attached to him, so it swings back and hits him in the chin.
Then he goes after him on the sidelines.
And the offensive lineman runs 1,000,000 miles an hour.
Might not have been a kick. His leg might have gotten tangled in his own headset.
I love the headset toss, and it comes back and hits him right in the face. Look, get out of here. Whoop, right in the face.
It does. Let's bring in Jemele Hill. Excuse me. She's got 2 brand new shows. The podcast is called Spolitics. The TV show is called Above the Fold. It's actual sports journalism on cable television. Thursdays, 7 Eastern on True TV.
I am guessing this is the best Jemele has ever felt as a Lions fan right now, today, beating Green Bay in Green Bay.
Well, she's not really out. I
thought she was a Lions
fan. No.
49ers fan.
She's a 49ers fan.
Well, then I take
Michigan ties.
Then everything I say, I take back. This would be the worst day to be a 49ers fan because your team's not really relevant and the Lions are a juggernaut.
I love the switch up, Stugotz. I love
you.
the switch up.
That's my specialty.
Well, but it is good for my household because my husband is a lifelong Lions fan. So you can imagine how he feels about this time right now. And so I'm happy for him. I don't hate the Lions. They just weren't my team. So I'm happy for the city of Detroit getting an opportunity to experience this. I mean, if they go to the Super Bowl, this will be the biggest story in Michigan sports history.
I want to talk to you about the Joel Embiid story because Stugotz is whispering in my ear, Dan, you have to come clean. You told me she was a Lions fan.
You did. I asked before. I asked on the front end. I did.
So Dan wasn't listening in the previous.
You know what? I wasn't listening to Stugotz. Was my fault. I did know that we had a bet scheduled between her and her husband.
Right.
It was an enormous football game between the 49ers and the Lions, but I did lead him astray.
You think you would have known then?
Yes,
right.
I did. It is my fault, not Stugotz's fault. The Joel Embiid story, what is it that you think is interesting or funny or not funny about that story, Jemele?
Well, here's what I'll get to the part that is funny. The funny part is that I don't know if you had this thought, Dan, but it made me really wistful because I remember when I was in the thick of it, when I was in the trenches, going to games, being in locker rooms, covering teams. These kind of confrontations happen. Now, maybe they didn't always result in shoving. Sometimes there was yelling, there was cursing, but it just kind of reminded me of the good old days is when you wrote something that probably crossed the line, or you just wrote something that you had to defend, and then you showed up in the locker room the next day, and then you just had to wait and see if all hell broke loose. I was like, damn, I kind of miss getting cussed out by a coach or athlete every now and again.
The column's still mattering. Marcus Hayes, this is what he wrote, over the line or not. Quote, Joel often says that he wants to be great, to leave a legacy for the boy named after his little brother, who tragically died in an automobile accident when Embiid was in his first year as a 76er. Well, in order to be great at your job, you first have to show up to work. Embiid has been great as just the opposite. Your thoughts there?
Totally over the line. I read the column and then I reread it and I took that part out of it, and I just sort of mentally, I read it without reading that paragraph, and the column's still effective. The column still works. He still gets the same point across that he feels like Joel Embiid has not lived up to his end of the bargain in terms of staying in shape, being in good condition, being ready for the start of the season. Those are all fair criticisms. But the moment that you start bringing in somebody's children, somebody's family, and certainly a relative that is deceased, that the subject is close, that is close to, you are asking for the confrontation that you got. I mean, Dan, you know that there are unspoken rules to this, and I think maybe those rules, they don't exist anymore because of the, sort of the type of media consumption society that we have become. But you just don't really touch family, not in this way. And especially, I found the whole correlation, and let's just say that people think that this is totally fair. What is the correlation between his child and his work and his late brother? I don't understand how all of those things mix together. So I thought that part of the column was totally out of bounds, and Joel Embiid had a right to be upset about the mention of them.
Can you walk us through, because at any point in our history, what you're saying journalistically is so, but I've changed the line for where it is that this stuff now lands. Newspapers have a standard, and you're saying that's too much, but that's not even mostly how any of this is consumed anymore. And fans and media do feel entitled to whatever the facts are on however it is they can criticize or bury you. So you're applying what have been old-fashioned sensitivities, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, man, I feel like all that stuff has been toppled now. We're not living in that world anymore.
Oh, no, Dan, you're right. I mean, there is a difference between how I want things to be and maybe my own personal code versus what they actually are. There's a very different realities there. I realize that I'm existing in the reality that is no longer the reality. Because even when I was on television, not that I'm not on television, but when we were at ESPN, I had a certain code that I lived by whenever I was on TV. I will not say anything about an athlete that I could not say to their face. That was it. To me, that is what kept me in check. That is what kept me from getting a little too comfortable in that seat in the studio, knowing I ain't got to go in that locker room anymore. But I realized that now in today's world of journalism, loosely journalism adjacent, is that you don't have to worry about that anymore. Much like we grew up in a time where if you got something wrong, you felt a level of shame. That shame doesn't exist anymore. So I understand what you're saying in that for a lot of people, this is totally within bounds. And even to some sports fans, they think this is within bounds because they're looking at Joel Embiid's performance, his underperformance at the start of this season. They're paying him a lot of money. And we know that as the money has risen and as the stakes have gotten higher and as people have felt more entitled to sort of access to athletes and more entitled to share their opinions about them, that there's going to be an audience for this of people who feel like this is right and just. And you can take these kind of shots at athletes because look at the money they're making. And yes, we have a right to criticize them in whatever way we see fit. I just personally do not exist in that world.
Jemele, has anyone ever confronted you over something you wrote?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like I remember the last memorable confrontation that I can recall was when I was on the beat. I was covering Michigan State basketball, and there was a rumor that Tom Izzo had put his hands on one of his players, and this is back in the day. I guess the message board used to be sort of our. It was sort of our version of what Twitter has become in many ways. Like on the message boards, there'd be all kind of rumors about recruits, players who saw them here, coaches, this kind of thing. But this particular rumor, it had happened after Michigan State. They had gone to Michigan. They had beat Michigan down at Michigan, and supposedly there was this rumor that Izzo was really upset with one of his players, and on the bus ride back to East Lansing and Ann Arbor are only like 45 minutes apart. That supposedly him and this player, got into a back and forth. There may have been a physical confrontation involved. And it was, for as much as something could be viral and could be everywhere, it was sort of everywhere. And so I asked Tom Izzo about it. And I think I asked the player about it, and they both said, no, that is not what happened. So that's what I wrote. I wrote, hey, despite this rumor, this didn't happen. And Tom Izzo was livid with me. And he was livid with me because he thought that I gave something that he didn't feel like was a legitimate rumor or a legitimate story I should be chasing. He thought I gave him more credibility because even his denial, he said, would lead to his adversaries in recruiting using that as a way to recruit against him. Now, this version of Izzo that we see now is a lot more mellower in terms of his sideline sort of behavior. But then Tom Izzo was known to break some clipboards. He was known to get a little feisty. He was known to be, at times either excitedly or maybe even critically in a player's face. So the idea that Tom Izzo would be accused of this is not necessarily surprising. And so he thought that I gave some legitimacy to some bull. And so he pulled me aside after his weekly press conference, and he and I went at it in the hallway. And, he was probably mad at me for a couple weeks, and then we were fine.
Chris Cody, please get for me one of the things on the resume of the late, great Quincy Jones. We lose him at 91 years old, and I believe he is the author of the greatest television theme song of all time. I also love Hawaii 5-0. I've got a weakness for Hawaii 5-0.
And College Game Day.
He did come into your city? I thought that was Big and Rich.
Jemele, what do you have for me historically? I am tired of doing death montages around here, the number of people who have historical impact passing away. But what can you give us on Quincy Jones as someone who appreciates her music?
Well, honestly, Dan, it's really impossible to kind of sum up his legacy when you think about everything that he did. But I guess recently, more recently, the things that come to mind is that if anybody has read Will Smith's book, go to the portion of the book where he talks about how he landed the role of the Fresh Prince, because he landed that at Quincy Jones's house. And Quincy Jones was one of the executive producers of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, which everybody enjoyed for many, many years. It's a phenomenal story, and it speaks to the genius and the way that Quincy Jones just had this way of being this architect. He was a creator. He built things. And increasingly in our society, we see that people don't really like to build things. And between that story, watching the We Are the World documentary that's on Netflix, which is phenomenal, Quincy Jones's documentary on Netflix, again, exceptional. And one of his last major interviews, which before Cat Williams got on Shannon Sharp's show, Quincy Jones's interview, I believe it's either Vanity Fair or GQ, it was one of those publications, was the Cat Williams interview that everybody saw, where he is taking us through some very interesting stories involving Marlon Brando and Marvin Gaye. And it's just phenomenal. But his legacy in music, his legacy in art is one that, while it is sad that he is gone, the fullness of his life is such that this actually does not, to me, feel like we're losing. It feels like we're allowed to celebrate somebody who has, for decades, deserved all the flowers that he's been given throughout his career.
He's always been a great contributor to some really good documentaries done in the world of music. While a genius musically, great composer, knew his way around music quite well. He also is a bit of an outlier in that he was a musical genius and a great people person. It's a common misnomer that you have to be a musical genius to be a good producer. A lot of great producers don't know how to play instruments, but they know how to manage people and bring the best out of their talent. And I think a lot of his people skills were highlighted in the We Are the World documentary. He made a lot of great things happen. He also pulled the plug on creative ideas when he realized that the personality type wasn't there. You could have also just ended it in speaking about his legacy by saying he made Thriller. So
yeah, I know. But Mike, I think that's like such a good point, because when you watch We Are the World, and for those who are sports fans, it's like you're seeing the imagine getting all of these living legends together in one room, and you have to orchestrate and you have to figure out a way that every person is featured and highlighted, but yet all the sounds blend together. And so seeing how he masterfully put that together is something that if you're in any kind of leadership role, if you're any kind of coach, like I would watch that documentary, because he certainly gives you a lot to think about in terms of how you bring people together. And listen, you mentioned Thriller, and it's like his relationship with Michael Jackson and being able to bring out the best in somebody who was already a genius, that says a lot about his ability to manage people, and more importantly, the level of respect that he carried, that somebody like a Michael Jackson and somebody like all the artists who are in We Are the World would listen to him and consider that, hey, I'm getting counseled by the exact person that I should be.
In modern music, you have Lil Wayne bothered that he didn't get the Super Bowl halftime show. That goes to Kendrick Lamar. Drake seems to still be suffering from the losses to Kendrick Lamar. Listen to Drake here during the broadcast. He was shouting. People were reading his lips, and he was saying to DeMar DeRozan. Drake is a Toronto Raptors ambassador. DeRozan's one of the most popular Raptors ever. But DeRozan was in some of Kendrick Lamar's stuff, Stugotz. So Drake was going after him, called him the P word, said, "Get out of here," and was doing this on the broadcast as well.
Absolutely spectacular, right? Yeah. Unfortunately, we're playing this goof tonight, but it is what it is. You know what I mean?
Hey, look, we're going to take the break. You're going to stay with us.
I bet you are, huh?
Yeah.
I've had enough vodka soda grapefruits. It's time to take a break, huh? By the way, put the camera on Jessie Reyes. She looks 20 million out of 10 tonight. Let's get a camera shot of her. Forget these clowns.
Jesse, we have a...
Oh, yeah. Let's get a shot of her. Look at that. Wowzers. Wowzers. An absolute national treasure right there.
101.92. Jack and I.
Holy smokes.
Speaking of national treasure.
Yes, if you ever put a DeRozan banner up, I'll go up there and pull it down myself. That's the answer to your question. Is that what you're going to ask?
No. I didn't mention that. Well, DeRozan and Kyle.
Yeah, well, shout out to Kyle.
The statues are next. Well.
Yeah.
They are. Drake, thank you for joining us in the fourth quarter.
I'm getting cut.
You're not. You're not.
Let's come back to Jesse one more
Jemele,
time.
before I get your thoughts on this, let's just get to DeRozan real quick. He was asked about this, the idea of tearing down his banners. He sounds like Stugotz, saying that if Dwayne Wade played for anyone outside of Miami, he would never allow him to have a statue.
Was I wrong? I mean,
yes, you were wrong. You didn't do anything to prevent the statue. Let's see what it is that DeRozan.
I mean, Lawrence Fishburne got a statue. Dwayne Wade's still waiting.
Let's see what DeRozan had to say.
Drake said, if you ever put up the DeRozan banner up, I'll go up there and put it down myself. What's your reaction to that?
Well, he gonna have a long way to climb to take it down. So tell him good luck.
What are your thoughts here? This is sad. This is Raptors basketball won a championship a few years ago.
Yeah, this is sad, but you know what I love about that clip? I actually hadn't heard the audio. I'd heard DeMar DeRozan's response, but I hadn't heard Drake actually on the broadcast, though I was familiar with what he said. I love how the play-by-play commentator is trying to get back to the game as he's going. He's like 101.92. It's like dude, nobody cares about that game right now. All right, just let Drake go unfiltered. But here's the problem. See, something like that doesn't actually. It's a bad look for Drake, and given the year that he's had. To me, Kendrick Lamar's greatest victory over Drake was, Drake is a very established artist. He's a successful artist. He's a popular artist. People around the world love his music. But to me, what Kendrick Lamar accomplished with Not Like Us is that he actually made Drake look corny. And it's hard to do it with somebody who's that popular, that famous, who has accomplished so much in his career. And I think the sting of that is still eating at Drake's soul at every opportunity. Now, what people need to understand is although DeMar DeRozan played for the Raptors, he is very much an LA guy. I mean, this is where he's from, Los Angeles, all right? So in the battle, who did you think he was going to choose? I mean, and what he did was he appeared in Kendrick's video. Kendrick, another LA guy. I also tell you this as a third thing. See, people who have been around people who have fought know the people who want to fight, right? And what I will say is that it's real easy to say that stuff when you're on a microphone in a booth. And when he called, DeMar DeRozan that P word, he said it real silently under his breath. Because one thing you always got to watch is the quiet ones. DeMar DeRozan, very nice guy. I've had an opportunity to meet him socially. And nice guy, but that's one of those dudes. They say always watch the quiet ones. You don't want that smoke. You don't want none of that. That's all I got to say. You don't want any of that. And if people are like, oh, what are you talking about? I tell you what, Google what happened when a stalker of Kim Kardashian, because DeMar DeRozan lives by Kim Kardashian, and a stalker broke into the wrong house, which was DeMar DeRozan's. Everybody Google that story. I'm going to give you a little homework.
All right, I will.
Okay? I will. All right, give you that story.
I'll actually read it.
It is. Jemele is saying he is not someone to be trifled with.
That's what I'm saying. And it's not just about that story, but I've lived in LA for 6 years. I know I'm an outsider, but you live here long enough, you start to understand who people, especially in LA, who the LA guys are in LA and what they mean to certain people. So I'm going to just leave it at that.
Is that the Larry O'Brien trophy next to you?
Looks like it.
What is that trophy?
Thinking about it the whole time.
What is happening there?
This is my microphone globe.
I told you.
Okay.
Man.
It looks, wow, that is a good microphone. The podcast is called Spolitics. The TV show is called Above the Fold. Last note as we let you go. Her show is Thursdays, 7 Eastern on True TV. What's going to be happening by Thursday of this week?
Man, already we're just Monday in. Saints have already fired their coach. I think we will also on Above the Fold, we will definitely continue this conversation about not just Joel Embiid, but everybody saw what happened with Jason Kelce and just this idea of boundaries and respect, and much to what you said, Dan, about what's been lost or gained or what is non-existent. And so one of the things I loved about Above the Fold, and thank you, by the way, for recognizing that the title of the show is an ode to newspapers, is to have, layered and nuanced conversations like the ones that you guys have a lot of times on your show.
All right. Well, that's promoting it, but where do you think America will be Thursday by the time?
Oh, you mean the election? I'm sorry, my bad.
No, that's all right.
Like, will it still be here? Like, what are you asking?
Yeah, I was asking. Yeah, I was asking. Will your show still be here, and will America
My show will still be here.
Will America still be here?
So, interestingly enough, I actually won't be here when this happens. I've already voted. But I'm leaving the country because this weekend is my 5th wedding anniversary. And so I'm leaving the country. I'll be gone. And so I don't know. Y'all have fun with that. Like,
okay.
I wish the best to you. And I'll see what the country is like when I return.
All right. See you later.
Go Lions.
First of 2 prayers answered.
I see what's going on here. I see the game that we're playing.
What do you mean?
Let's not talk about how we did in the Listener League this week. I've got onto these tricks, these shenanigans, these fun and games.
Right.
Did you have a good week finally?
Well, I don't know if you saw on the social media, I proclaimed that I was winning this week. And I finished in the 400s, unfortunately. So next week's my week. That's the good thing about this. We've discussed this many times. Next
you
week.
seem to finish in the 300s and 400s a lot.
He had a top 10. He did.
Yeah, I finished 6th, I think, week 2.
Right.
And then last week I was down to the 300s. I was trending in the right direction. And then when we were in Chicago, I was in the 100s. So this week when we're in Arizona, by the way, if you're going to go check us out in Arizona, we'll be there on Sunday. Maybe we can set our fantasy lineups together or something. Just don't copy mine because then we're tied and then I'm not going to win anything. But here's the thing. If you want to compete against us, go to dkng.co/Smirnoff. Presented by Smirnoff, the world's #1 vodka. Please drink responsibly. You can compete against me, Stugotz, other people from the show. And if you win first place, you win like $750, $3 buy-in.
Yeah.
Next week is my week, I think. I'm not going to say one.
You're due.
I think I am due. And I think I've gotten some of the bad juju out. Bring in the good juju here. You know what I mean?
If there's hundreds of people doing it and you finish top 10 week 2, are you due? I mean, there's a lot of people that need to finish top 10.
What?
How many people are participating in this that you're finishing
Hundreds.
in the 300s and
Hundreds.
400s? I gathered.
And if
when
you add them
finish-
all up, hundreds of thousands.
All right, but for the audience, so that we can have it expressed, because this is a new thing that God Bless Football is doing.
We've been doing it for a couple years.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm talking about the thing that you're doing this Sunday. I'm talking about landing in a city with a God Bless Football party that is echoing all sorts of God Bless Football, and you can make bets with us, and you can follow Stugotz on Stugotz. You guys, and Billy's Big Board brought to you by. You guys
22-12 on the season. Thanks
you
for
guys are
plugging that.
killing it right now, right? You guys are getting
Contract year, Dano.
You guys are doing well.
Good.
Yeah.
You guys
Hedging
are
my
doing
own bets
well
in case we don't
betting.
get that
Mike
contract.
Ryan, if you're super following Mike Ryan could tell you what was going to happen in that Bengals game, that Gesicki was going to eat, that a whole bunch of people were going to eat because Burrow was going to be getting rid of the ball very quickly.
Big game for Gesicki, huh?
Yeah, we're doing all right. red hot. I mean, incredible. I mean, the last 4 months have been on an absolute tear. But please, back to the God bless football.
He did the
promotion.
gritty again.
Guys,
it was back.
The first rule of a gambling tear is you don't talk about the gambling
don't talk
tear.
about it. No.
That's it.
I've been talking about it for months. Ain't nothing stopping this.
We're doing fine.
Nope.
Okay.
I'm never going to lose another bet ever again.
Okay.
You have to tell people what's going on at the craps table. I understand that you want them to sit out until
They'll hear the
roll
cheer.
is over,
They'll hear the cheer.
but
They'll
you-
know. Yeah.
Well, but God bless football. Look, there are many ways to promote God bless football. One of them is that they're going to show up in Arizona this weekend and throw a big party with Stugotz and Billy.
At the DraftKings Sportsbook, TPC Scottsdale, to be precise.
But another way to lure people to God bless football is they're winning you money because Stugotz and Billy have been getting things right. And I'm telling you that while we haven't been very good with the parlays, in the areas, in the crevices, in the shadows, Mike Ryan, Billy, and Stugotz have been doing some good gambling.
This is the best season I've ever had, Dan. I'm 41, 23, and 2 on the season.
That's
NFL.
really good.
Just,
I mean,
just
Jesus.
totally killing it in all sports. It's
Yeah.
really, if you want NASCAR winners, you got that.
Wow.
But
Who's
but
winning
again,
this weekend?
This weekend, what? I don't know if it's going to be one of those playoff drivers, man. It was
You
crazy.
better put on the
Did you see what
gearhead.
happened?
You better put on the gearhead if you want to talk about
Did you
this.
see what happened? Controversial finish. But I don't want to disrupt what God bless
What was the
football.
controversy?
No, go.
There was a driver, Christopher Bell. He used the wall to his advantage.
I love
2
that.
years ago, there was the Hail Melon. All right, it was Ross Chastain, who's known to be the watermelon man.
Right.
So 2 years ago, to pass Denny Hamlin in the playoff standings, you know when you spin something real fast and the thing that goes all the way to the edge goes the fastest? That's how it works when you run a car into a wall on purpose. That's what Ross Chastain did 2 years ago.
That was 2 years ago already?
2 years ago,
Wow. Time flies.
he crashed into the wall on purpose to essentially supercharge his car, and he used it to go extra fast and pass Denny Hamlin. So after that very badass move, which was crazy, NASCAR said, hey, that's illegal. So we had a situation where someone tried to do the Hail Melon. That one's tough for me. Hail Melon, but he got ruled out of the NASCAR playoffs because it was illegal.
You shouldn't be doing this on a football Monday.
Why?
I think
The championship
wrong.
is on Sunday.
Championship
The
is
races
right.
also happen
Yeah.
on Sunday. This
Vroom,
was
vroom.
Kyle Larson shut out of the playoffs, which is a shame because if you look at wins, I mean, it's certainly a championship quality season from him, but you got to do the big things in the important moments, and he didn't do it enough. But we finished top three. It was
Sounded
kinda-
like Mike was trying to say.
The Hamari.
He did make it Hail Mail Mary.
The Hamari.
Because I'm trying to say Hail Melon.
Hail
That's
Melon,
not
yeah.
one that you say every day.
And this is Diana Rossini trying to say Hail Mary.
The Hamari.
Don't worry, Mike. I struggle with Nittany Lions. It's
Nittany
hard for
Lions
me.
is tough.
Yeah.
What is
What are
that
you doing
accent?
in Scottsdale?
Just chilling. Hanging with the boys
Did
and
you
the
get every-
girls and whoever's
did you
coming.
get every
Just not
read-in?
children, 21 and over. What?
Did you get every read in?
Did I what?
Get every read?
Yeah, sorry.
Every
What
mention?
is that
Today.
accent Rossini's
The
doing?
Hamari.
Like, what is that?
Jersey.
The talking too fast accent.
That's a
The
2 kids
Hamari.
thing.
But what is? I
It's a
don't.
2 kids thing.
It sounds like an old nun
The Hamari.
in Italy speaking English in her second language.
The Hamari.
Am I wrong about this? This is someone in an old Italian church telling people in English how they should be doing the Hail Mary, but English is not her first language.
The Hamari.
Who's still in it in NASCAR?
We got Billy Byron in it now. You got Tyler
Really?
Reddick, Joey Logano, Slowy Joey probably doesn't.
Roy,
belong
Chris
there.
Cody, what were the football things
And
we
Ryan
missed
Blaney
today?
had to win to get in, and he did it. He won. After the heartbreak of Homestead last week, it's great to see. He's actually going for back-to-back championships. Very difficult to do in that sport.
Has Joey Logano met the expectations? Because he was such a big deal coming into the sport. Has he exceeded or met those
He
expectations?
met the expectations,
Really?
no doubt.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Is it, Stugotz? I feel like you're feigning interest.
Oh, he was prodigious.
I feel like Stugotz, really, interesting is him totally petering out. Like
know-
that, he is exhausted the last of his feigned
Got a
interest.
crazy take for you. Christian Pulisic.
He drives now?
He is
Wow.
he's surpassed the
Multi-sport star.
expectations.
Right.
Yeah.
The Hamari.
Really? Interesting.
Pulisic is better than they told us he would be.
No way.
That's my
How's
hot
that
take.
possible? You said
Get
he was going to
outta
be like the
here.
best American soccer player ever, didn't you?
He's the best American soccer player ever.
Wow.
Way
Mia
to come.
Hamm would like
On the
this.
men's side, don't do that to me before election. You're such a scumbag.
Whoa.
God.
Jeez.
The
Laid a trap
Hamari.
and I walked right into it.